Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Caitanya Charitamrita, and in this episode we will be studying the greatness of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Of course, we have done similar sessions on the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is again reiterated here in this chapter. Alright, so we will say our prayers, Mangalacharan prayers, and we will start the session. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamaram Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we'll start from where we left off. So the greatness of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. The last session we have discussed that we have to take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu in order to advance in Krishna consciousness. And take shelter means to take shelter of their instructions. Yes, to chant their name, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasad Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. But apart from that, very importantly, we have to follow the instructions. And the instructions, we have the Shikshashtaka of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they are the summary of all instructions, and especially the instruction which is Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So if you see all the 8 prayers in the Shikshashtakam, the first prayer enumerates all the glories of the holy name and the Sankirtan movement itself. Now, we have at least partially realized or understood, at least theoretically accepted, that yes, Sankirtan movement is something good, and therefore we have taken to this, right? Now, after having taken to this Sankirtan movement, the second verse says, I have no attraction because I am very offensive, and therefore I have zero attraction for it. So that's the stage at which we are now. And to progress further, we need to chant the holy name and incessantly chant Kirtaniya Sadahari. But that can happen because of Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanna Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So that is where we are stuck at. And Nadhanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, I don't want wealth, fame and money. I just want to be a servant birth after birth. We know that's the proper prayer, but are we really there? We're not there. We can't be there if we have not crossed this third, this Trinadapi Sunichena, without humility, without tolerance, giving all respect to others without any expectation of any respect from others, then only, if we are like that, then we will be carefree in this world and we can chant Hare Krishna. Why are we interrupted in our chanting? Because there are hankerings and lamentations which are blocking. Ahaituki, if our devotional service is ahaituki, then only it will be apratihata. If it is hetu, it is haituki. If there is a cause, if there is some other reason or motive in our heart, then it cannot be apratihata. You know this? There's a famous verse. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje ahaitokya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. Ahaituki apratihata. So real devotional service means it has to be ahaituki, without any cause, and it has to be apratihata, without any interruption. Now it will only be without interruption if it is without a cause, without a motive. If there is no other motive in our heart, anyabhilashita shunyam, then only it will be apratihata. Otherwise, there will be impediment. You see the translation. And for those who are here, please share it with others so that they can also join, because not many are there online right now, as I can see. Maybe share it, remind them that the class has already started, because I haven't announced earlier. So, translation: the supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity, is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So, interruptions happen when our desire, we have anya abhilash. Only when it is shunyam, then we will be able to give respect to everybody. And we will not expect any respect, because we will then understand that why am I worthy of respect? If I am 1/10,000th the part of the tip of the hair, if I am so insignificant, why should I demand respect from anyone or anything, or for anything that I seemingly have done? Because without Krishna's empowerment, we cannot do anything. What can a particle which is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair do in this world? What significant contribution can it do in this world? We can't. Only by the empowerment of Krishna. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tar Pravartan. One cannot preach without Krishna's empowerment, and also one cannot do anything, without his empowerment. We can't even talk without his empowerment. So, why should we, expect respect? And if I am expecting respect, then that na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim is not. I want jana, I want adoration, I want fame. So, my computer is dying. I don't know what is happening. One second. So you see, it's very important that we be without motive. So if we have any motive of sense gratification, see, when there is motive means there is only sense gratification. When it is called ahaituki, there is no sense gratification, thought of sense gratification in the heart. That is ahaituki. If there is any hetu, if there is any cause or any motive, any reason, reason means for us to initiate, arambha. Sarvarambha parityagi. A devotee is classified as Sarvarambha parityagi. He gives up all kinds of initiatives in this material world based on his mental concoctions. He will take up the initiative of the Lord and execute it. That's another thing. And he makes plans based on that original initiative of the Lord. And to fulfill that initiative, he may take up many initiatives in the matter of service to the Lord. But he doesn't take up any initiatives of his own. That is Sarvarambha Parityagi. And when we have initiatives of our own, that's when we have three types of vision towards others. We cannot do this amanina and manadena. We cannot give respect to everybody, and we cannot be not expecting any respect from others. So that is explained here. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:23-48. Tam durjayam shatrumasahya vegam aruntudam tanna vijitya kechit kurvantya sadvigraham martyair mitranyudasena ripun vimudhah. Failing to conquer this irrepressible enemy, the mind, whose urges are intolerable and who torments the heart, many people are completely bewildered and create useless quarrel with others. Thus they conclude that other people are either their friends, their enemies, or parties indifferent to them. So who is our friend? Who helps in our sense gratification? Who is our enemy? Who causes any impediment to our sense gratification? Who is a neutral person, indifferent party? They are people who don't particularly help our sense gratification or particularly oppose our sense gratification. They are neutral cases. So in this way we triage the world, and therefore this what is it called? Vidyavanaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini sunichaya vishwapakesha pandita samadarshinaha. This samadarshana cannot happen. And Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. Samah sarveshu bhuteshu. So we cannot see equally everybody. So therefore, trinadapi sunichena, humbler than the grass, and tarorapi sahishuna, more tolerant than the tree. That's the only way. I can go on saying that, oh, this is not fair, that is not fair. Time is not going to wait for fairness. Time is running out, and death is coming. Whether it's fair or not fair, with every second ticking, our death is approaching. So, at the time of death, it doesn't matter whether that person treated you fairly or unfairly, or it doesn't really matter at all. Completely doesn't matter. So we should be unwavering in our focus, in our determination to execute Krishna consciousness. That should be our focus. So if I am trinadapi sunichena, if I am humbler than the grass, I don't really care whether the person is unfair or fair. That's why tarorapi sahishnuna, more tolerant than the tree. Tolerate anything. Tolerance, becomes easier. The more we are unattached to the material world, the more it is easier to tolerate. Otherwise, we cannot tolerate. We cannot tolerate. We will be agitated. And tolerance means that you are aware of the pain, but you are tolerating the pain. And there is another stage which they are not even aware of the pain because it doesn't concern them at all. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama payano nityas tam titikshasva bharata. Here titiksha means you see that there is an inconvenience, but you are advised to just tolerate it and go on with your real duty of life. But when one is extremely focused and he is advanced enough in Krishna consciousness, he doesn't even have to tolerate because he doesn't even feel anything. 11:13-36 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Deham janashvaram avasthitamuthitam va siddho na pashyati yatodhyagamat swarupam daivadapetamata daivavashadupetam vaso yatha parikritam madiramadandha. just as a drunken man does not notice if he is wearing his coat or shirt. Similarly, one who is perfect in self-realization, who has thus achieved his eternal identity, does not notice whether the temporary body is sitting or standing. Indeed, if by God's will the body is finished, or if by God's will he obtains a new body, a self-realized soul does not notice, just as a drunken man does not notice the situation of his outward dress. So why a drunken man does not notice? Because he is intoxicated. He is completely intoxicated. So similarly, a self-realized person is completely intoxicated with the happiness that he derives from Krishna consciousness. Nothing else matters to him. When it does not even matter, is it even called tolerance? Tolerance means when you can feel it, but when you're just tolerating it, you're fighting that pain. That's it. But what does it mean to be not even feeling it? So that's how we must be intoxicated in Krishna consciousness. So we have no time to waste about, he's unfair, he's not fair. Come on. So 5:30. Rishabdev, we have seen this verse the other day, but you see, this is important. It is important. We have to reiterate this point over and over and over again because we're not learning the lesson. We are just chanting the verse like a parrot. Trinadapisunichana tarorapisashana amanna manadana kirtaniya sadahari. Ratta marofai. And simply, what do you call it? Mug up the whole thing. And then zero application, zero contemplation, zero introspection. So it has to be drilled into our head that we have to become humble and we have to become tolerant. And I've explained this in the last session that we have to beat our mind 100 times in the morning, 100 times in the evening. Why did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur give that? Because we cannot pamper the mind. Oh, you are good, like Western philosophy. Oh, you are good, love yourself, self-love. It's complete rubbish. So that's where the ego gets inflated. That's how the ego is getting inflated. In fact, our culture is, I am the worst of the worst. And that's not depression. They think it's depression. No, that is humility. When you don't have, when you think I am the worst of the worst and then you have nothing to hold on to, then you'll go into depression. But when we are humble and then we hold on to the lotus feet of Krishna, yes, because of Krishna, because of you, anything can happen. And let me serve you. So there is a aim in life. So if there is no aim, simply so-called humility will cause depression. And that's why to counter it, they want to say, oh, I am powerful, I am loved, I deserve all love. These are the prayers, they say. They say, what is this? Self-assertion, something, they have some useless term for it. And, there's a self-love. What is self-love? That means complete selfishness. That's all it is. So you see, this Rishabdev began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, homes of cowherd men, transient hotels, hills, forests and hermitages. Wherever he travelled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble. But he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. Honestly, if our body is dead, what will happen to that body? The worms will eat and pass stool, worms, or it becomes dust, or it becomes ashes, or some jackals and vultures eat them and become stool. That's even worse than passing stool on the body, eating the whole body and then passing the remnants as stool. That's what he understood. I mean, body is meant for such an end. Whether one does all these things, it does nothing to the soul. We have already seen Nainam Chandanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavakaha, Nachayanam Kledayantyapo, Nasoshayati Marutaha, Achedyoyam Adahyoyam Akledyo Soshevacha, Nitya Sarvagata Sthanu Rachaloyam Sanatanaha, Avyaktoyam Achintyoyam Avikaryoyam Uchate. So, I mean, the soul has nothing to do with all these things. None of the material elements can even touch the soul. So he is self-realized and he is completely immersed and intoxicated in that happiness of self-realization. Tapodivyam putrakayana sattvam shuddhed yasmat brahma saukhyam tu anantam. The unlimited spiritual bliss of Krishna consciousness is so intoxicating that he did not care about this. For he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. Amanina manadena. Tulya ninda stutir mauni. Tulya means equal. Ninda means insult. Stuti means glorification. Mauni. Mauni means silent. Silent, of course, means he is silent in material field, but he always talks about Krishna. So, tulya ninda stutire. So, how to be equal in praise and insult? Not that I feel good when I am praised and I feel bad when I am insulted. So, that's a problem. So, I have to insult myself. Who do you think you are? Hey, Dushtaman, tumi kiser Vaishnav? Pratishtha tare nirjaner ghare tava harinam keval kaitav. You are not a Vaishnav, you are a Kaitav. You are a cheat, you are not a devotee. So, in other words, okay, we are reading again the translation, continuing on. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. So, if we want to keep ourselves safe in Krishna consciousness, the answer is not anywhere else. Oh, because I am not in a good community or I am not in a, this. No. I am the problem. I am not humble. I am not tolerant. I am expecting respect. I am not respecting others, and that's why I cannot do Kirtaniya Sada Harihi. No other reason. And if we do these four things, Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Saishana, Amanina Manadena, then Kirtaniya Sadahari will be automatically done. So, if anything is stopping our thing, it is only because of the hetu it is not apratyahata because I have a hetu, I have a desire, I have some arambha, I have some hankering or lamentation in this world. Dhana, Jana, Sundari, these things I have. Subtly, I don't even realize these things, that I have these things. So that's why introspection, that's why this slapping of the mind, hitting with the shoe and broomstick, this is very, very essential. And this philosophy of Krishna consciousness, when we read Prabhupada's books, it kicks us in the mind, it kicks our mind, inspires us, at the same time kicks us, puts us in our place, and inspires us to serve Krishna, serve the devotees. You see? So, in other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. Just imagine, take out Rishabdev and put yourself there. What will happen if people forget about, somebody even threaten or somebody even insult? I will get enraged, right? Then where is the tolerance? So this is the thing. This is the problem. So following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just does not mean, oh yes, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Well, good. It's good. We are not saying no, we have to chant his name. But not just a chanting name, there has to be following of instructions. So that instruction is Trinadapi Sunichena. The most important instruction in the whole of Shikshashtaka is Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sarishwana. Most important. Others all, firstly, yes, the glories of Sankirtan movement, and then our unfortunate position of offensive chanting, and then the third one, and then after that, of course, fourth also is instructive. What is material hankerings? So these are Dhanam, Janam, Sundarim. So, but that stages and the stages after that, these are very highly elevated stages. So we cannot, that is out of reach for us now. Third verse is where we have to focus on. That is where we are. We are actually in the second verse. Durdaivam idrisham ihajane nanuraga. We have no anuraga. We have no taste for chanting. No taste for Krishna consciousness. And therefore, we have to become humble. So we have to enter into the third verse. We partially, a bit, at least understood something of the first verse. We have not actually really understood, because if we do, then we will not commit offense. If we really understand the first verse, if we really realize the first verse of Shikshashtaka, we will not commit any offense. But we are committing the 10 offenses because we don't have that much faith in the glories of the holy name. No, we have to cultivate that. How to cultivate? Chant and read every day. This reading will automatically do everything. Beating the mind, inspiring us, everything will be done by reading of Prabhupada's books daily. So, that is following of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. So now, today we will start at here, 832. स्वतंत्र ईश्वर प्रभु अत्यंत उदार, तारे ना भजिले कभू ना होय निस्तार. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead, is greatly magnanimous. Unless one worships Him, one can never be liberated. And worship means not just offering flowers, arati, or chanting His name. That is also part of worship. We are not saying that's not worship. But following instructions, if we don't follow instructions, just simply chanting and offering flowers and all this, it's what is the point? It's cheating, right? So to follow instructions. Purport. Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur here remarks that one should not give up the worship of Radha Krishna to worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By worshipping either Radha Krishna or Lord Chaitanya alone, one cannot become advanced. One should not try to supersede the instructions of the 6 Goswamis, for they are acharyas and are very dear to Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur sings, Rupa Raghunath Pade Hoive Akuti, Kabe Hama Bujhabo Shri Jugal Priti. One must be a submissive student of the 6 Goswamis, from Srila Rupa Goswami to Raghunath Das Goswami. Not following their instructions but imagining how to worship Gaurasundar and Radha Krishna is a great offense, as a result of which one clears a path to hell. So, how to take shelter of the Gauranitai? Not simply directly also, through the 6 Goswamis. And how to follow their instructions? We have to follow our own spiritual master. So, not following their instructions but imagining how to worship Gaurasundar and Radha Krishna is a great offense, as a result of which one clears a path to hell. If one neglects the instructions of the 6 Goswamis and yet becomes a so-called devotee of Radha Krishna, he merely criticizes the real devotees of Radha Krishna. See, this is very, very, very profound, very interesting. If one neglects the instructions of the 6 Goswamis and yet becomes a so-called devotee of Radha Krishna, he merely criticizes the real devotees of Radha Krishna. Wow. As a result of speculation, he considers Gaurasundar to be an ordinary devotee and therefore cannot make progress in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha Krishna. If we consider Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an ordinary soul, then no chance. So 833. Ore mudha loka suno Chaitanya mangal, Chaitanya mahima jate janibe sakal. O fools, you see, Ore mudha loka. Mudha Loka. Loka means the world. Oh, foolish world. Just read Sri Chaitanya Mangal. By reading this book, you can understand all the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur's Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat was originally entitled Sri Chaitanya Mangal, but when Srila Lochan Das Thakur later wrote another book named Sri Chaitanya Mangal, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur changed the name of his own book, which is now therefore known as Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. So basically, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we are reading now, he is recommending us to read Chaitanya Bhagavat, which was then called Chaitanya Mangal at that time. Later on it was changed to Chaitanya Bhagavat. Now here also it is an important thing to note. Now, first was Vrindavan Das Thakur who wrote Chaitanya Mangal. And somehow Lochan Das Thakur also, Lochan Das Thakur was a very, very humble devotee, very Mahabhagat of course. Now he may or may not have known that there was already a book called Chaitanya Mangal, and he wrote another Chaitanya Mangal. And Vrindavan Das Thakur, instead of saying that, hey, this is copyrighted material, this is my name, why did you repeat? You change your name, you put something else. No, although he did first, still out of his own humility, what did he do? He changed his own book's name. You see, we have to subtly observe everything. That's why reading means observe everything. No, okay, Chaitanya Mangal, it was Chaitanya, it is now Chaitanya Bhagavat. Okay, fine, finish. No, look at that. I mean, somebody did something first, and then another devotee copied that, knowingly or unknowingly. But the former devotee did not get upset about it. Hey, why is he using my name? It's fine. I'll change my name, my book's name. So that is humility. No fight, no copyright, no lawsuit, no nothing. That is Vaishnava thinking. The life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very elaborately described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has already informed us that in his Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita he has described whatever Vrindavan Das Thakur has not mentioned in his Chaitanya Bhagavat book. This acceptance of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami indicates his acceptance of the disciplic succession. A writer of transcendental literature never tries to surpass the previous acharyas. So this is disciplic succession, parampara. Means, Vrindavan Das Thakur has written Chaitanya Bhagavat, okay, do say Chaitanya Charitamrita better than his Bhagavat. No, that is not. He is doing this, taking the inspiration, taking the blessings of Vrindavan Das Thakur. That's the proper way to write. It's a proper way to conduct ourselves as a devotee even. Krishna Leela Bhagavate Kohe Veda Vyas Chaitanya Leelar Vyas Vrindavan Das. As Vyasadeva has compiled all the pastimes of Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, Thakur Vrindavan Das has depicted the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Vrindavan Das Koilo Chaitanya Mangal Jahara Shravane Nashe Sarva Amangal. Thakur Vrindavan Das has composed Sri Chaitanya Mangal. Here in this book annihilates all misfortune. Mangal means auspicious, good fortune. Mangal Arati, very auspicious time of the day, and that the Arati that is performed at that time is called Mangal Arati. So Amangal, Nasha Sarva Amangal. So if we read the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Bhagavat or even Chaitanya Charitamrita, it annihilates all misfortune. That's why we have to read. चैतन्य नितायर जाते जानिए महिमा जाते जाने कृष्ण भक्ति सिद्धांतेर सीमा. By reading Sri Chaitanya Mangal, one can understand all the glories and truths of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda and come to the ultimate conclusion of devotional service to Krishna. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is the authoritative reference book from which to understand devotional service. But because it is very elaborate, few men can understand its purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is the original commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is called Nyaya Prasthana. Shruti Prasthan, Smriti Prasthan, Nyaya Prasthan. So that is called three Prasthan. I mean, the Vedas are classified like that. So this Nyaya Prasthan, which is Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam is the original commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. It was written to enable one to understand the absolute truth through infallible logic and argument. And therefore its natural commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam, is extremely elaborate. Professional reciters have created the impression that Srimad Bhagavatam deals only with Krishna's Ras Leela, although Krishna's Ras Leela is described only in chapters 29 through 33 of the 10th canto. They have in this way presented Krishna to the Western world as a great woman hunter, and therefore we sometimes have to deal with such misconceptions in preaching. Another difficulty in understanding Srimad Bhagavatam is that the professional reciters have introduced Bhagavat Saptaha, or 7-day readings of the Bhagavatam. They want to finish Srimad Bhagavatam in a week, although it is so sublime that even one verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, if properly explained, cannot be completed in 3 months. Look at this. They want to finish Srimad Bhagavatam in a week, although it is so sublime that even one verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, if properly explained, cannot be completed in 3 months. Under these circumstances, it is a great aid for the common man to read Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur's Caitanya Bhagavat, for thus he can actually understand devotional service Krishna. Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, and Nityananda. Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Panchara Atra Vidhim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpataya Iva Kalpate. Devotional service to the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures, the Upanishads, Puranas, Narada Pancharatra, etc., is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. Due to misunderstanding Srimad Bhagavatam, people are misled regarding the signs of Krishna. However, by reading Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur's book, one can very easily understand the signs. That's the beauty about Chaitanya Bhagavat. I have not read Chaitanya Bhagavat, but I have read Chaitanya Charitamrita. And honestly, one can very easily understand the imports of Bhagavatam from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So if we do devotions, so these verses are also very important. Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Pancharatra Vidham Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpataya Iva Kalpate. Devotional service that ignores the authorized Vedic scriptures like the Upanishads, Puranas and Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. So when we remain as so-called devotees but we don't read Prabhupada's books, then what will happen? We are conducting our devotional service not according to Shruti Smriti Purana Pancharatra Vidhamana. See, first of all, we have to understand we are engaging in devotional service to control our own mind and put it in at Krishna's lotus feet. Savai Manah Krishna Padaravindayor Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanuvarnane. So first thing is to invest the mind at Krishna's lotus feet. If I am engaging officially in devotional service, but my mind is not at Krishna's lotus feet and I am always thinking of, some materialistic ideas or blaspheming devotees, fault finding, everything other than Krishna consciousness, then it's just a waste of time. Unnecessary, not only waste of time, it wastes not only our time but also the people around us, because we will spread such ideas to others. If we are not thinking about Krishna, whatever we think, we talk about that, right? If I think about cricket, I will talk about it. If I think about business, I will talk about it. If I think about a movie, I will talk about it. So whatever I am thinking, Savai Manah Krishna Padaravindayor Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanuvarana. Immediately, first the thinking of the mind was on Krishna, Ambarish Maharaj, and then his words followed, describing Krishna. So, whatever our mind is thinking on, we will speak on it. So by one speech, one can see where the person is standing. By his speech, we can understand his mind. right? 429.63. I think, we have seen that last week. If you don't remember, if you have not seen, you see 429.63. यथानुमीयते चित्तम् उभयैरिन्द्रिये हितैः एवं प्राग्देहजं कर्म लक्ष्यते चित्तवृत्तिभिः. One can understand the mental or conscious position of a living entity by the activities of two kinds of senses: the knowledge acquiring senses and the executive senses. So, in other words, our mental condition, whatever our thought is, can be understood by our actions, by our senses, either by the knowledge acquiring senses or the executive senses, means the working senses. So, what are the knowledge acquiring senses? The eyes, the ears, the nose, the skin, and the tongue to taste. Then the 5 working senses: hands, legs, speech, tongue, but in this case, that is Jnanendriya. Karmendriya is speech, and then genitals and anus. So, by the actions of these 10 senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, Jnanendriya, and 5 Karmendriya working senses, executive senses, one can understand one's mental position. Because I will consume that information according to my mental position. If I am interested in Krishna, I will hear about Krishna. If I am interested about some politics, I will tune into some politics. If I am interested in some sports, I will tune into that news. If I am interested in some gossip, I will tune into that. So, by seeing what he is hearing, what he is reading, what he is seeing, and what he is doing, so we can understand where his mind is. Similarly, by the mental condition or consciousness of a person, one can understand his position in the previous life. From senses, we can understand his mental position. From the mental position, we can understand what was his previous life's condition, which caused this kind of mentality in this life. So we have to conduct ourselves according to Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Adi, Pancharatra Vidhi. So we have to follow these things, otherwise it is going to be causing disturbance. भागवते जत भक्ति सिद्धांते रसार लिखिया छें यहाँ जाने कोरिया उद्धार. In Sri Chaitanya Mangal, later known as Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has given the conclusion and essence of devotional service by quoting the authoritative statements of Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you will find so many quotations from Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Mangal Shune Jadi Pashandi. Chaitanya Mangal Shune Jadi Pashandi Javan Seha Mahavaishnava Hoy Tatakshan. If even a great atheist hears Sri Chaitanya Mangal, he immediately becomes a great devotee. Tatakshan. Tatakshan. Shana means in that second, immediately. So that's mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that not only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could purify, but the book written about him, which is his pastimes, which is non-different from him, can also purify similarly. Manushya rachite nare aiche grantha dhanya Vrindavan dāsa mukhe vakta Sri Caitanya. The subject matter of this book is so sublime that it appears that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally spoken through the writings of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur. Purport. Very important. Srila Sanatana Goswami has written in his Hari Bhakti Vilas, Avaishnava mukhodgirnam putam hari kathamritam Shravanam naiva kartavyam sarpochishtam yathapayah. One should not hear anything about Krishna from a non-Vaishnava. Milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. Similarly, talks about Krishna given by a non-Vaishnava are also poisonous. In other words, those who are not Vaishnavas in their thought, words and deeds, they cannot write. They cannot write proper Siddhanta. And when they write defective Siddhanta, we can understand what is their state of mind. To write proper Siddhanta, one has to be empowered by Krishna. So that's why Prabhupada's book we have to read. That's why we have to sing the songs written by the Acharyas. Srila Sanatana Goswami has written in Hari Bhakti Vilas, Avaishnava Mukhodgirnam, you see. Here it is said that it appears that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally spoke the Chaitanya Mangal or Bhagavat through the writings of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur. And that is actually what happens. Prabhupada also said, Krishna spoke and I wrote. That's it. Krishna was dictating and I was writing. And Baladev Vidyabhushan, his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra was called Govinda Bhashya, because Lord Govinda Dev in Jaipur, that deity spoke to him and then he was writing the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. He was writing the commentary spoken by the deity. And it is not only limited to Baladev Vidyabhushan. Every single Uttama Adhikari devotee who writes in this way. That it is all Krishna's dictation, it comes through the pen of such a Vaishnava or the words of such a Vaishnava. So, continuing on in the purport, 839 of the Adilila. Transcendental literature that strictly follows the Vedic principles and the conclusion of the Puranas and Pancharatrika Vidhi can be written only by a pure devotee. Only by a pure devotee. It is not possible for a common man to write books on bhakti, for his writings will not be effective. He may be a very great scholar and may be expert in presenting literature in flowery language, but this is not at all helpful in understanding transcendental literature. Even if transcendental literature is written in faulty language, it is acceptable if it is written by a devotee, whereas so-called transcendental literature written by a mundane scholar, even if it is a very highly polished literary presentation, cannot be accepted. You may ask, why is a non-devotee writing it perfectly and a devotee should write it imperfectly or faultily? There is no fault in the philosophy. There may be fault in the expression or the grammar or the way it is said. Like Prabhupada said that I am writing these books in English and English is not my first language. So there may be errors and mistakes in my way of writing, but I hope that this will be taken in the right way, which is, the essence of it is Krishna consciousness. And that message, if it can be picked up by the reader, that is my success. Prabhupada was saying like that in the introduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, Prabhupada's English is very, very good. Exceptionally good. So, of course, he wrote everything, but he was praying like this. Even if transcendental literature is written in faulty language, it is acceptable if it is written by a devotee, whereas so-called transcendental literature written by a mundane scholar, even if it is a very highly polished literary presentation, cannot be accepted. So in literary terms, it may be, with so many alliterations and so many embellishments in such writing, and very maybe poetic even, but if it is not by a devotee, especially pure devotee, cannot be accepted. Pure devotee or a person who is following the footsteps of a pure devotee, even then he should not be writing anything, books of his own books. Of course, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur encourages his disciples to write in the magazine and even write books. Prabhupada limited us to write in the magazine. Books, well, there is no need because Prabhupada's books are there. But if something like Ramayana, Mahabharata, which was not mentioned, and the 11th canto which Prabhupada asked them to do, so these things are fine. But nowadays ISKCON, they are writing so many books and rubbish books they are writing. One is this Journey Home, Journey Within, all Mayavad types of books. Not only that, there are many people who are writing their own book, and one of them even wrote a Bhagavad Gita translation. Complete rubbish. So-called devotee. Or like, vague, like a Mayavadi almost. These things are happening. The secret in a devotee's writing is that when he writes about the pastimes of the Lord helps him. He does not write alone. Important. So when we are reading Prabhupada's books, we are not just reading some man's books. No, we are reading Krishna's personal words, personally spoken by Krishna. So as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10.10, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. Since a devotee writes in service to the Lord from within gives him so much intelligence that he sits down near the Lord and goes on writing books. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and you see how Prabhupada wrote prolifically. Despite his extremely busy schedule and an extremely advanced age, nothing seemed to stop him. He was just going on and on. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami confirms that what Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote was actually spoken by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he simply repeated it. The same holds true for Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in his old age in an invalid condition, but it is such a sublime literature that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj used to say, quote, "The time will come when the people of the world will learn Bengali to read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita," unquote. I mean, we are trying to present Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in English and do not know how successful it will be, but if one reads the original Chaitanya Charitamrita in Bengali, he will relish increasing ecstasy in devotional service. And actually, it in Bengali, in Sanskrit, there is the words. If you understand those words, there is so much nuance there. And then when you understand the word, then you can understand that this word has so many meanings, so many applications. That's how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the Atmarama verse. He explained each word with many, many meanings. But in the word-to-word meaning, only one meaning is given, right? So actually it has many, many meaning, many applications. So if one knows the language, one can appreciate even more. That's why I highly recommend for the devotees to learn shlokas. You have to put effort. I have given a whole series on how to learn shlokas on our YouTube channel. A whole playlist is there. I think it's a 7-part series of videos, a course, free course on our YouTube channel. Long videos, but it's worth it. We have to learn the verses, and learn means not just memorizing, and memorizing is good, but word to word we have to understand each word's meaning. Then you will understand the word used in another verse somewhere, and there it is slightly different meaning. That means this word can be used in that way also. Okay, fine. So then that meaning, if it can be superimposed in this verse, then we get a new realization of something. So we have to immerse our thought in this kind of scriptural understandings. Of course, we have to engage in our services, but also we have to constantly contemplate all these instructions and the shlokas, and this is how our mind should be as a devotee. Our mind should be thinking of Krishna all the time. That's it. You may think, it is not so important, we have very important things to do. Yeah, if I have time, I'll just, maybe learn some verse, or maybe even start reading, No, these are actually important things. Other things are not so important. In fact, at the time of death, we will realize that all those things are not at all important. They are useless. They have been sources of waste of time rather than anything good. 840 of Adilila. Vrindavan dāsa pade koti namaskar aichhe grantha karite ho tarila samsar. I offer millions of obeisances under the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. No one else could write such a wonderful book for the deliverance of all fallen souls. Narayani Chaitanyar Uchishta Bhajan Taragar Bhajan Mila Shri Dasa Vrindavan. Narayani eternally eats the remnants of the food of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was born of her womb. So in text 43 of the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika, a book written by Kavi Karnapur, that describes all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who they previously were in Krishna Leela, there is the following statement regarding Narayani. Ambikayah svasa yasin namna shrila kilimbika krishnotchishtam prabhunjana seyam narayani mata. When Lord Krishna was a child, he was nursed by a woman named Ambika, who had a younger sister named Kilimbika. During the time of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation, the same Kilimbika used to eat the remnants of food left by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Kilimbika was Narayani, who was a niece of Srivas Thakur's. You know, Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, we say Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. That's Srivas Thakur in the Panchatattva. His niece was Narayani, who was originally Kilimbika, who was the younger sister of Ambika, who was one of the elderly gopis in Vrindavan. I mean, who will know this knowledge? That means Kavi Karnapur, who wrote the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika, he is an eternal associate who can see all these things. Who is who? How do we know? How do we know? Yeah. Some Ambika, we never even heard of this Ambika in the whole Krishna Leela. And then she had a younger sister named Kilimbika. Who knows? And that person took birth as Narayani, and Narayani's son is Vrindavan Das Thakur, who is an incarnation of Vyasadeva himself. That is also mentioned in the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika. Vrindavan Das Thakur is Vyasadeva. Later on, when she grew up and married, Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur was born from her womb. A devotee of Lord Sri Krishna is celebrated in terms of devotional service rendered to the Lord. Thus, we know Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur as the son of Narayani. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur notes in this connection that there is no reference to his paternal ancestry because there is no need to understand it. Maybe nothing so significant there, but Narayani at least was a great devotee, his mother. तारकी अद्भुत चैतन्य चरित वर्णन जहार श्रवणे शुद्ध कोइलो त्रिभुवन. What a wonderful description he has given of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Anyone in the three worlds who hears it is purified. अतएव भज लोक चैतन्य नित्यानंद खंडिवे संसार दुख पावे प्रेमानंद. I fervently appeal to everyone to adopt the method of devotional service given by Lord Chaitanya Nityananda and thus be freed from the miseries of material existence and ultimately achieve the loving service of the Lord. So, this is his prayer. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu should be taken shelter of. वृंदावन दास कोइल चैतन्य मंगल ताहा ते चैतन्य लीला वर्णिल सकल. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has written Sri Chaitanya Mangal and therein described in all respects the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Sutra kori sabe lila korila granthan pache vistariya tahar koilo vivaran. He first summarized all the pastimes of the Lord and later described them vividly in detail. Chaitanya Chandreru Leela Ananta apar varnite grantha hoilo vistar. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are unlimited and unfathomable. Therefore, in describing all those pastimes, the book became voluminous. Vistar dekhiya kichu sankocha hoilo man sutra dhrita konu leela na koilo varnan. He saw them to be so extensive that he later felt that some had not been properly described. नित्यानंद लीला वर्णने होइलो आवेश चैतन्य रशेष लीला रहिलो अवशेष. He ecstatically described the pastimes of Lord Nityananda, but the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained untold. So, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, the early pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are vividly described, but the later pastimes have not been described because by the time he came to that, the book was too voluminous and he wanted to condense it, and then he ended up not describing. Now that looks like he did not plan his work properly. No. So it may resemble such imperfection, but no. It is an opportunity, it's a mercy that he gave to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami for him to do the service. There was once a conversation of Srila Prabhupada caught on videotape as well, where all his GBC men were with him and they were asking, Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that he was leaving this world with his work unfinished. Srila Prabhupada said, let's finish it then. He said, then he added to it. He said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is Vaishnava, he is all powerful, he could have finished it all by himself. But he left it so that we can have some chance to serve. So we should not see this as an imperfection of the Vaishnava. Oh, Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote, and it's good that he was ecstatic, but he did not plan himself properly, and you see, now his book is like incomplete. No. So this is what we have to understand. So it's an opportunity, it's a mercy that he left the work to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to complete it. Just like one devotee asked Prabhupada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prithivite Achujata Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachar Haibimornam. He said, in the future, my name will be chanted all over the world in every village and town. Why didn't he do it himself? He is God, no? Prabhupada said, he left that for me. That is Krishna. He wants to glorify his devotee. Krishna could have finished the Kurukshetra war in a second. What is that? यस्यैकनिश्वसितकालमथावलम्ब्य जीवन्ति लोमविलजा जगदण्डनाथाः विष्णुर्महान् स इह यस्य कलाविशेषो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. Millions and millions of universes are just coming out of his body every second, every breath, and millions of universes are being annihilated. What is a small piece of Kurukshetra land for him? Nothing. Universal destruction. He can just breathe and do that. So what is the difficulty for him to annihilate all the Kauravas? But he asked Arjuna to do it. Gave him a chance to serve Krishna's mission. And not only that, he wanted to glorify Arjuna. Now we all know Arjuna to be the great archer who defeated all these great generals on the other side. But that's what Krishna wants. Krishna wants his devotee to be glorified. So if we have a chance to serve, if sometimes the so-called, the senior devotees or the predecessor devotees or acharyas seemingly have left, without completing their so-called thing, or it looks something imperfect, or even if it is not something so big, even if it is like, I come to the temple and I see, it's a little bit dirty, what is this? Of course, the devotee should keep it clean, but if it is dirty for some reason, because they were busy or whatever, then instead of finding fault, I must take it as a blessing. Krishna has given me the chance to sweep. How kind is he? By sweeping the temple, my heart will be swept of all the dust in my heart. This is great opportunity for me. Let me sweep. So the so-called imperfection of another devotee is actually a mercy. It's an opportunity for us to do service. And Krishna, by pointing out that thing, that the gap, like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami saw that there was a gap, that the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not described explicitly and elaborately. So that gap, he did not take it as a defect of Vrindavan Das Thakur. In fact, he glorified Vrindavan Das Thakur, and he said that in his ecstasy he was writing and it became so voluminous. And he left that for him to complete. This is how Vaishnava sees. Not that, he could not do. I will do better. That is not Vaishnava consciousness. In that consciousness, we cannot do any service. any proper service. Our ego will be smashed. Krishna will make sure our ego will be smashed. शैशव लीलार सुनिते विवरण वृंदावन वासी भक्तिर उत्कंठित मन. The devotees of Vrindavan were all very anxious to hear those pastimes. The later pastimes, which Vrindavan Das Thakur did not describe. Vrindavane kalpadrume suvarna sadan mahayoga pithataha ratna simhasan. In Vrindavan, in a great place of pilgrimage underneath the desire trees, is a golden throne bedecked with jewels. Tattvavit ache sada vrajendra nandan Shri Govinda Deva Nama Sakshata Madan. On that throne sits the son of Nanda Maharaj, Shri Govinda Dev, the transcendental Cupid. Raj Seva hoy taha vichitra prakar Divya samagri divya vastra alankar. Varieties of majestic service are rendered to Govinda there. His garments, ornaments and paraphernalia are all transcendental. Sahasra sevaka seva kore anukshan Sahasra vadane seva na jai varnan. In that temple of Govindaji, thousands of servitors always render service to the Lord in devotion. Even with thousands of mouths, one could not describe this service. I mean, not only the Lord cannot be described, but the service was so elaborate and extensive that the service itself could not be described with even thousands of mouths. That is how a temple should be run. There should be so many services centered around Krishna. There should be book distribution, there should be classes, there should be cooking, prasadam, and distribution of prasadam, building of temples, opening new preaching centers, publishing of books, magazines, and bringing people and training them, engaging them in seva. Everybody must be inspired, and then they have to be engaging together in varieties of services, so much so that the services themselves can't be described. Thousands. You see Govindaji temple. Now you go to Govindaji temple, it's a shambles. It's in shambles. Half of it was broken by that Aurangzeb, rascal. And then whatever is remaining, monkeys are there. You will find full of monkeys. And some pujari is there doing some puja, that's it. That was not what Govindaji temple was. Thousands of servitors always render service to the Lord. Even with thousands of mouths, one could not describe this service. That is how temple should be run. Everybody must be engaged. Sevar Adhyaksha Shri Pandit Haridas Tarjashah Guna Sarva Jagate Prakash. In that temple, the chief servitors was Sri Haridas Pandit. His qualities and fame are known all over the world. Sri Haridas Pandit was a disciple of Sri Anantacharya, who was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. Now, this Haridas Pandit is not Haridas Thakur. This is another Haridas. Shushila Sahishnu Shanta Vadanya Gambhir Madhura Vachana Madhur Cheshta Mahadhir. He was gentle, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, grave, sweet in his words and very sober in his endeavors. Such a person should lead the temple. You see, the chief servitor was Haridas Pandit. That means he was the president of this temple president basically. Now, his qualities and fame are known all over the world. You see, he was gentle, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, grave, sweet in his words, very sober in his endeavors. So, in other words, he was a Pakka Vaishnav. Now, Vaishnav also will do harsh scolding, chastisement also there. That is also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself did that. He said, Haridas, Chota Haridas, you cannot even banish. He banished. So, there are instances, but generally, that chastisement is also just for correction, out of service. It is done out of service, out of a mood of service, not out of a mood of, just bossing around or for no reason. Correcting so that the person can change and become better. सबार सम्मान करता करें सबार हिता कौटिल्य मात्सर्य हिंसा ना जाने तार चिता. He was respectful to everyone and worked for the benefit of all. Diplomacy, envy and jealousy were unknown to his heart. This kind of a leader of Vaishnavas can inspire everyone. So we have to preach. Prachar can only be effectively done when we have achar. So without achar, what prachar can we do? If I simply eat achar, pickle, and not do any achar, setting an example of good behavior, Vaishnava behavior, then prachar will be ineffective. You see, Prabhupada, he was so exemplary and people just followed. Of course, there are also rascals, who tried to sabotage him. Things are there. But you see, despite all of that, the movement went far and wide, all over the world. How did he hold everything together? Because of the spiritual strength that comes from the sadhana. Without the sadhana, we cannot do this. Even our eyes came. How it is going on world over? Because we are maintaining some principles of sadhana. If that is compromised, then it will not run properly. It will die, natural death. So we should not take anything for granted. Oh, eyes came, okay, everything will be nice. No, we ourselves have to be an example for ourselves, first of all, and for others. And then only we can bring people, then only we can train them up, then only we can, make them into good devotees. We have to be, first of all, good devotees, otherwise we cannot make them. Krishna Raje Sadharana Sadguna Panchash Sesab Guner Tara Sharire Nivas. The 50 qualities of Lord Krishna were all present in his body. Wow. Only Lord Brahma has all the 50 qualities in full, but this Pandit Haridas had all the 50 qualities of Lord Krishna. Krishna has 64, and a living entity can only have 50 of those qualities. The other 14 are only possible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the maximum a living entity can have is 50 qualities in full, to his capacity. Now all those 50 qualities were in full in this Haridas Pandit. So that is Vaishnav. 5:18:12. यस्यास्ति भक्तिर्भगवत्य किंचना सर्वैर्गुणैस्तत्र समासते सुराः हरावभक्तस्य कुतो महद्गुणा मनोरथेन सति धावतो बहिः. All the demigods and their exalted qualities such as religion, knowledge and renunciation become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Means the devotee will have all good qualities automatically. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material qualities has no good material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? So as long as we are serving Maya, what good qualities do we have? We are a thief to start with, taking everything from Krishna and then using in the service of Maya without even having any gratitude. What kind of a devotee is that? What kind of a etiquette, even basic manners? You take something from somebody, you say thank you, but he is serving Maya and completely lost. He is not even saying thank you to Krishna. What kind of thing is that? Thief. And even if I say thank you, I should not say just thank you. If I go to somebody's house and without the permission I just take something and say thank you and I just use, is that the way to say thank you and use whatever his one as mine, my property? No. I have to serve that person. It belongs to him. So that is how we have to conduct ourselves. So that is proper. Otherwise he does not even have good qualities to start with. So a devotee there, on the other hand, he is fully having all good qualities automatically come to his person when one is a devotee. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu purport of 857, the 50 qualities of Lord Krishna were all present in his body. This Haridas Pandit. Purport. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the transcendental qualities of Shri Krishna are mentioned. Among these, 50 are primary. Ayam Neta Suramyangaha, etc. And in minute quantity, they were all present in the body of Shri Haridas Pandit. Since every living entity is a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all 50 of these good qualities of Shri Krishna are originally minutely present in every living being. Due to his material nature, these qualities are not visible in the conditioned soul. But when one becomes a purified devotee, they all automatically manifest themselves. This is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.12 as mentioned in the text below. Now this was the exact verse I showed. Now I think in the purport there are... Okay, these are the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. But the 50 qualities, actually Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has all the enumeration of all the 50 qualities that are possible for Jivas, and then the 14 other qualities which are only possible for Krishna. 5 of which are possible for Lord Shiva, 10 of which are possible for Narayana, but all the 14 are possible only for Sri Krishna, apart from the 50. So you can go and read that, You search in the, maybe if somebody can put in the comments any which chapter of Nectar of Devotion, then maybe we can go through those. Just read them. So this verse is quoted 858. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunaistattra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahadgunar manorathena sati dhavato bahim. In one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna, all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods are consistently manifested. However, one who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications because he is engaged in mental concoction and material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. Pandit Gosair Shishya Ananta Acharya Krishna Prema Maitanu Udara Sarva Arya. Anantacharya was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. His body was always absorbed in love of Godhead. He was magnanimous and advanced in all respects. Tahara Ananta Guna Ke Karu Prakash Tara Priya Shishya Iha Pandit Haridas. By the way, I mentioned earlier Shloka learning course. So every devotee must learn shlokas, and this is a shloka learning course playlist. We will leave it in the description in the YouTube video as well. So please take your time and go through this course and try to learn shlokas. And it's very important. So translation: Anantacharya was a reservoir of all good qualities. No one can estimate how great he was. Pandit Haridas was his beloved disciple. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Sri Anantacharya is one of the eternal associates of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Previously, during the advent of Lord Sri Krishna, Anantacharya was Sudevi, one of the 8 gopis. Wow! This is stated in the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika, verse 165 as follows. Anantacharya Goswami ya Sudevi Pura Vraje. Anantacharya Goswami was formerly Sudevi Gopi in Vraja or Vrindavan. Oh, there are only 85 verses in this chapter. What is the time? 9 o'clock. Maybe we'll try to finish it. Let's see. In Jagannath Puri or Purushottam Kshetra, there is a monastery known as Ganga Mata Mat or Ganga Mata Ashram that was established by Anantacharya. Oh, that's interesting. In the disciplic succession of the Ganga Mata Mat, he is known as Vinod Manjari. Oh, but then here is known as Sudevi Gopi. One of his disciples was Haridas Pandit Goswami, who is also known as Sri Raghu Gopal, and as Sri Rasamanjari. So many names. His disciple Lakshmi Priya was the maternal aunt of Ganga Mata a princess who was the daughter of the king of Putia. Ganga Mata brought a deity of the name Sri Rasika Rai from Krishna Mishra of Jaipur and installed him in the house of Sarvabhauma in Jagannath Puri. Wow, so many names. It's already mind-boggling for me. I can't even keep track. But don't be lost. Even if you can't understand anything, even just by chanting the names of these devotees, one can become so pious. Just as chanting the names of Krishna are very purifying, just by chanting the names of these exalted souls is very purifying. It's like Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. So we are mentioning his name, and that is purifying. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas is a devotee, was saying his name. So chanting devotee's name is extremely purifying. So sometimes it appears that, oh, this name, that name, this name, that name. Even if we did not register anything, at least by chanting those names we made advancement. So powerful. So Ganga Mata brought a deity of the name of Rasika Rai, Sri Krishna's deity of course, from Krishna Mishra of Jaipur and installed him in the house of Sarvabhauma in Jagannath Puri. The disciple in the 5th generation after Sri Anantacharya was Sri Vanamali. In the 6th generation, Sri Bhagavan Das, who was a Bengali. In the 7th generation, that's interesting. So, you see, this is all in Purushottam Kshetra, Jagannath Puri. That means all these devotees are Odia until now. That's why it is specifically mentioned here. The 6th Bhagavan Das was a Bengali. Until then, all these names are Odia. In fact, Krishna Mishra of Jaipur. Mishra is also an Odia name actually. I don't know why he is in Jaipur, but so anyway, it seems to be all Odia Vaishnavas. These are Gaudiya Vaishnav now, this Bengali 7th generation onwards. In the 7th generation, Madhusudan Das, who was an Oriya. In the 8th generation, Neelambar Das. In the 9th generation, Sri Narottam Das. In the 10th generation, Pitambar Das. This Narottam Das is a different Narottam Das Thakur. 10th generation, Pitambar Das. In the 11th generation, Sri Madhav Das. The disciple in the 12th generation is presently in charge of the Ganga Mata monastery, Ganga Mata Mat or Ganga Mata Ashram. This is coming from Anantacharya, who is from Haridas Pandit, who was the chief temple president in Govinda Devji temple in Vrindavan, not the Jaipur one, in Vrindavan, the one originally built by Sri Rupa Goswami. Why do you think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote all these things in the Anubhashya? This is all this thing that we have read. The whole purport is the Anubhashya of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Why do you think these things are important? These names, who is in the which generation? This is parampara. These are official documentary evidence that okay, this is the parampara of Ganga Mata Mata. There is otherwise, if there is not, like we know our parampara 32 names. If they were not documented, we would not be able to prove our parampara that is stemming from Krishna, a continuous disciplic succession. So that's why, for record purposes, for checking the veracity of the parampara, these are required. The names are all required, and this generation, is all required. Otherwise, everybody can say, oh, I am also parampara this way. What parampara? Where parampara? Nobody knows. So that kind of thing is not acceptable. Chaitanya Nityanande tar parama vishwas, Chaitanya Charite tar parama ullas. Pandit Haridas had great faith in Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, therefore he took great satisfaction in knowing about their pastimes and qualities. So, see, we have to be greatly satisfied in reading pastimes of Chaitanya and Nityananda, not that, every class is Tattvavit, Tattvavit is talking about reading books and reading books and reading books. There is nothing else to say. This fellow. And he's making me just, guilty only. I think I better stop hearing his classes. So, right now there is no satisfaction, there is no great eagerness to read. But once we start reading, that will blossom. वैष्णवेर गुणग्राही ना देखाए दोष, काय मनो वाक्य करे Vaishnava santosh. He always accepted the good qualities of Vaishnavas and never found fault in them. He engaged his heart and soul only to satisfy the Vaishnavas. This is a Vaishnava. This is a Vaishnava. He always sees accepted the good qualities of Vaishnavas and never found fault in them. He engaged his heart and soul only to satisfy Vaishnavas. Now, Prabhupada found definitely faults in his disciples, but that is not fault. That is just to correct them out of love. That is different. But otherwise, he always saw good qualities and encouraged them. And it's not just about encouraging them. His own mind is always seeing good in others. That means he is good in himself. If he sees bad in everybody else, he himself has a problem. Dimitri, if Prabhu is asking, is it okay to read Caitanya Charitamrita if I haven't finished Srimad Bhagavatam yet? Well, Caitanya Charitamrita is a postgraduate study of spiritual life after Bhagavatam. But you can read. Usually it's read after Bhagavatam, but you can read simultaneously. You can, you read whatever it is, read Prabhupada's books. That is more important than anything else. Yes, there is an order. Bhagavad Gita has to be read first and then Bhagavatam, Caitanya Charitamrita. But you can actually start reading. That's why we are having Caitanya Charitamrita classes. I think none of you almost have touched Caitanya Charitamrita yet. Or even Bhagavatam haven't finished. But maybe some of them haven't even started Bhagavatam yet. So we are reading here Caitanya Charitamrita. Of course, we are trying to explain. But yeah, you can read, you can. Or maybe I start off with Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Oh, you haven't read the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya? You must, of course, you must. You must read Teachings of Lord. That's actually a condensed book of the entire teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the entire Caitanya Charitamrita. That at least we should read. Even before I read Caitanya Charitamrita, I read at least twice Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Later on only I started Caitanya Charitamrita after I finished Bhagavatam. Finish means it's not finished. Read it once, that's all. Even if you read it 1,000 times, it still will not be finished. There is no such thing as finishing. Apara means unfathomable depths. So, he always accepted the good qualities of Vaishnavas and never found fault in them. He engaged his heart and soul only to satisfy the Vaishnavas. A Vaishnava means he should always be a servant. Dāsa, dāsa. How can I satisfy the Vaishnavas? I am a servant of the servant of Krishna. So I have nothing to do with service of Krishna directly. I have everything to do with service to Vaishnavas who are serving Krishna. Who are maybe serving some other Vaishnavas, who are serving other Vaishnavas, who are serving other Vaishnavas, who are serving Krishna. That is my position. Majjanmana phalamidam madhukaita bhare mat prarthaniyam madanugraha esha eva tvadbhritya bhritya paricharaka bhritya bhritya bhrityasya bhritya iti mam smaralokanatha. What is bhritya? Servant. Oh my enemy. O enemy of Madhu and Kaitava, O Lord of the universe, the perfection of my life and the most cherished mercy you could show me would be for you to consider me the servant of 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 your servant. How this Kulashekar Alvar wrote. So, what does it mean to be a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna's servant? It means what? That means I have to satisfy. A servant's duty is to satisfy the master. So we have to satisfy the devotees. We have to satisfy. And what will satisfy any devotee? Anything to do with Krishna. Anything to do. Satisfy. So that's why there are ways of how to deal with devotees. Dadati pratigrihanati guhyamakhyati prachati bhunkte bhojayate chaiva shadvidha priti lakshanam. So we have to engage in priti lakshanam, loving activities between devotees. That's how our spiritual family is nurtured. And those who are senior, they should become more of a servant. They should serve every devotee, every newcomer should be served. That person should become nice devotee. I should help. What difficulties are they facing? Okay, let me help. How to help? What difficulties they are facing means how to help. Introduce them to Krishna consciousness. That will help. That is the help. Not that he is facing some monetary difficulty. I'll give him some money. He is facing some other job. He is not getting job. Okay, I'll arrange job for him. That is not service. We are not talking about that. We are talking about help means spiritual help to the soul, not to the body. Then automatically other things will be taken care of by Krishna. The real thing is that he has to be made Krishna conscious, and that is service. So if we at all become a senior devotee among others, that seniority means more of a servant. That means the das. If there are 3 das, 4 das means that is senior devotee. More senior devotee means 10 dasas. How many dasas you have, that much senior you are. That is seniority in spiritual circle. So as we become more and more senior, we have to become more and more of a servant. We have to serve. When somebody's soul is coming to the temple, soul is coming to the movement, it is an opportunity for service. Serve this soul so that he can become a devotee of Krishna. Krishna has given me this soul so that I can speak about Krishna to this person. Let me distribute some book. Krishna is giving me opportunity to serve, and this person is an instrument in my service. Because if nobody comes, who shall I distribute book to? So he is helping me do some service, and he is coming to Krishna consciousness. So let me help that person become Krishna conscious. How to help? First of all, I have to be Krishna conscious. So whenever they take association of senior devotee, they must learn something from that. It should be a learning experience. You see, even recently that Narayani Mataji from Russia, she did a nice video, and many devotees have done nice, very beautiful videos on their gratitude to ISKM and why they are glorifying Sundar Gopal Prabhu like that. Because he has helped them. He has helped them. He has, everything he is clearing the doubts patiently, spending hours and hours. If not for COVID, he would be somewhere else now. He would be traveling. He's old age, but he's traveling. And he's trying to help everybody. Set up temples, set up, preaching. Inspiring everyone. And that is what is endearing to them. So that is senior devotee. He is serving everybody, you see. That is seniority. And that is what will inspire others, and that is what will make the devotees stick to the movement. If the senior, that's why Prabhupada said the GBC, they must do as I am doing and say what I am saying. That means they have to act exemplarily. Then, yes, everybody will be inspired and everybody will be together. Everybody will be, growing as a family, as a one big family. So that means senior. If I see some kind of somebody who is not following something, it's not that, he's not following, I'll just leave this association. No. Let me follow. And let me set example. And let me... So, somebody else's shortcomings or seeming, not being able to follow or whatever, should not disturb my own devotional service. In fact, I should try to help him or her. How can I serve that person? Here is an opportunity to serve. Somebody is having a crisis with his devotional life. Let me help. You see here. (11:26:32) I think. Majjatam. For those who are drowning. So if somebody is drowning in his spiritual life, you see, Nimajjonmajjatam ghore bhavabdhau paramayanam santo brahmavidah shanta naurdridhe vapsu majjatam. The devotees of the Lord, peacefully fixed in absolute knowledge, are the ultimate shelter for those who are repeatedly rising and falling within the fearful ocean of material life. Such devotees are just like a strong boat that comes to rescue persons who are at the point of drowning. Rescue boat. Rescue boat. What they do? They serve those who are drowning. Pick them up. That is service. So that is what a senior devotee has to do. He has to pick everybody up. He has to inspire everybody. That is what a senior devotee must do. His job is to serve every other Vaishnava. Prabhupada very humbly said, I am all these people in the Western world are all not even third class people, fourth and fifth class people. On lesser than even Shudras, Chandalas. But I am 10th class man. I am the servant of all these 5th class men. Just see the humility, just see the sense of responsibility. It's not just like fake humility. Oh, I am a fallen soul, I am a 10th class, I am a 100th class. No. Translate that into action. What does that mean? I have to serve. And Prabhupada actually served. He served knowledge, he served kirtan, he served prasadam, he cooked everything. I just saw, the other day I was seeing that video, Prabhupada Memories, I think, something like that. So, the devotee was saying that in the beginning days, Prabhupada was so out of money and he was trying to feed so many people and then teach them Krishna consciousness, everything. And he had about 15-20 guests in the Sunday program. And then he had to, not only Sunday, actually thrice weekly, he was having programs. And he used to cook up a feast. And what he used to do, that time they had no money. And watermelons were very cheap. And they used to cut the watermelons up. And the watermelon was served, first to the Lord and then distributed. The rinds, the skin, the shell of the watermelon, that's called a rind, R-I-N-D. The rind, the watermelon rind, Prabhupada was making sabji out of that because there was nothing else. He served. He is the topmost person on the planet. On the face of the earth, he was the topmost soul that was traversing the planet. And he served hippie drug addicts, sex mongers, womenizers, absolute dirty people. No culture. Dirty from externally and internally, they were all confused. He was serving them. There's a nice verse today, morning Prabhu was showing, Prithu Maharaj was saying, the devotees are more exalted than royalty. Okay, let's search for this word. You see, Ma jatu teja prabhaven mahardhibhis titikshaya tapasa vidyaya cha de deepyamane jita devatanam kule swayam rajakuladvijanam. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are personally glorified by their characteristic powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge and education. How are the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, how do they become famous? By their characteristic powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge and education. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. Royalty means the so-called royal families and the kings and the prime ministers and the presidents of the states of different countries of the world, they are royalty. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. And Prabhupada, he is the topmost of all Vaishnavas. He is the most powerful person on the planet at that time, and he was serving so menially some fifth class men and women. That is what it means to be a senior devotee. Senior means how many dāsas you have in your credentials. Just like the more one is materially qualified, the more he will have PhD, masters in this, bachelors in this, so many designations, right? So senior devotee is designation. The more senior, how you see how much he is a das, 1,000 million dasas and a das. That is how he is senior. So our movement is meant for service. We call others Prabhu and Mataji because we are a das and a son. And mother is to be served, a master is to be served. I am a servant. And the sooner we understand that, the safer we will be in spiritual life. Otherwise, we are digging our own grave, spiritual grave. In fact, it is said, it is therefore advised that the princely order or the kings not exhibit its material prowess before these two communities and should avoid offending them. Should not offend the sadhus, Vaishnavas. So this Pandit Haridas, he always accepted the good qualities of Vaishnavas and never found fault in them. He engaged his heart and soul only to satisfy the Vaishnavas. Purport. It is a qualification of a Vaishnava that he is adoshadarshi. Na dekha hai dosh. Adoshadarshi. He never sees others' faults. Freedom from fault finding. What is that? Apaishunam, this word apaishunam means, you see, aversion to fault finding. This is the verses which are very important verses. 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, verses 1 through 3. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitih Danam Damascha Yajñascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas Tyagah Shantirapaishunam Daya Bhuteshvalo Luptvam Mardavam Hrira Chapalam Tejah Kshamadhriti Shaucham Adroho Natimanita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. Passion for honor. Freedom from the passion for honor. We have a passion for honor. We want to be honored. We want to badly be honored. We badly want to be honored. That's our position. That's our disease. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. This is Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim, Daivi Sampat. Asuri Sampat also is there. After that is Asuri Sampat. 4th verse onwards. So, Of course, so okay, it is a qualification of a Vaishnava that he is adosha darshi. He never sees others' faults. Of course, every human being has both good qualities and faults. Therefore, it is said, Sajjana gunamichanti doshamichanti pamaraha. Everyone has a combination of faults and glories. But a Vaishnava, a sober man, accepts only a man's glories and not his faults. For flies seek sores, whereas honeybees seek honey. Haridas Pandit never found fault with the Vaishnava but considered only his good qualities. And this is how we can stay in the association of Vaishnavas, see their good qualities. निरंतर सुने हो चैतन्य मंगल ताहार प्रसाद सुनेन Vaishnava sakal. He always heard the reading of Sri Chaitanya Mangal, and all the other Vaishnavas used to hear it by his grace. So he engaged in hearing or reading, and he engaged everyone else also in reading. And because he was reading, everyone was also inspired to read. So he has to show, first of all, the example, not just for them to read, but for his own nourishment. And automatically, the good thing is that automatically it inspires others. It's not that a senior devotee must inspire others through some motivational talk, some, some speech like that. No. He just has to follow the principles of Vaishnavism for his own nourishment, and that automatically will inspire others. And he has to have, of course, the compassion for others. That will come. When one becomes a Vaishnava, compassion will come. कथाय सभा उज्ज्वल करे जेना कथाय सभा उज्ज्वल करे जेन पूर्ण चंद्र निज गुणामृते बाड़ाए वैष्णव आनंद. Like the full moon, he illuminated the entire assembly of Vaishnavas by speaking Sri Chaitanya Mangal, and by the nectar of his qualities, he increased their transcendental bliss. This is what happens when you associate with devotees, qualified devotees, and discuss the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, and basically our books, or the subject matter of our books, and the service, everything. This is what happens. Everybody is just, inspired. That's what is mentioned here. See, Bhagavad Gita. Macchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. You see, they get great satisfaction and bliss. Same thing is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 4:34. Ooh. Okay. Not this. No. Hmm. 4:30-20. नव्यवधृदये यज्ञोन् ब्रह्मैतद् ब्रह्मवादिभिः न मुह्यन्ति न शोचन्ति न हृष्यन्ति यतो गताः. Always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. That is the test whether you are making advancement. You feel everything every day as new. Not that, Mangalarti started. After this Guru Puja, chanting, service. That means completely we are diseased. We are just on the brink of leaving the service. Everything we are leaving. No, ever increasingly fresh. Prabhupada said, if you are waking up in the morning and you are jumping, yes, Mangalarti, it is time for Mangalarti. It is time for Seva. That enthusiasm is the devotee's hallmark. So, and when discussing about Krishna and his service and everything, and making plans for service, not just, discussing Krishna's pastimes is one thing, okay, how to glorify this. Let's start something, okay, let's make a movie about Krishna. Let's make a movie, or let's start a new temple. Let's find out a new way how to distribute books, maybe on live streams. Sell books on a live stream, online. People are doing that, so selling things on live streams. Why don't we do that with books? That has been actually one of our ideas for very long. We haven't put it into practice yet. But yeah, everything. Look for opportunities, where to engage ourselves and engage others also in the excitement. Let everybody in the party. So, always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. The all-knower, the super soul, Paramatma within the heart of the devotee makes everything increasingly fresh. Who makes it fresh? The Paramatma in the heart. So that means he has to be pleased. And how is he pleased? When the Guru is pleased, then Paramatma is pleased. Then he will make everything fresh for us and we will be enthusiastic in devotional service. This is known as the Brahman position by the advocates of the Absolute Truth. In such a liberated stage, Brahma Bhuta, one is never bewildered, nor does one lament or become unnecessarily jubilant. This is due to the Brahma Bhuta situation. Now, such a person can never be demoralized. I wanted to show something. I was thinking of a verse. And Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 10, 20. Think so? No, not at all. What is that? 11.3.30. What am I saying? 11.3.30. Parasparanukatanam pavanam bhagavadyashaham mitho ratir mithastushtir nirvrittir mitha atmanaham. One should learn how to associate with the devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying. As devotees thus develop their loving friendship, they feel mutual happiness and satisfaction. And by thus encouraging one another, they are able to give up material sense gratification, which is the cause of all suffering. You see, according to Srila Sridhar Swami, those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness should not envy one another or quarrel among themselves. Giving up all such mundane feelings, they should gather together and chant the glories of the Supreme Lord for mutual purification. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pointed out that glorification of the Supreme Lord is especially potent when performed in association of pure devotees. When devotees engage in Sankirtan, chanting the glories of the Lord together, they experience the highest transcendental bliss and satisfaction. Thus, they encourage one another to give up material sense gratification, which is based on illicit sexual connections with women. One devotee will say to another, "Oh, you have given up sense gratification. Starting today, I shall also give it up." One should learn to increase one's love for the devotees to satisfy them and to give up sense objects unfavorable to serving Krishna. And one should learn to view the entire universe as paraphernalia for the Lord's service. Now, this is not Prabhupada's purport, but the Acharyas have been quoted. Now, of course, it's the devotees who have mentioned this. But just read, One should learn to increase one's love for the devotees to satisfy them and to give up sense objects unfavorable to serving Krishna. And one should learn to view the entire universe as paraphernalia for the Lord's service. By engaging in the objects of the senses in Krishna's service, one automatically becomes detached from them. And as one passes one's days in the association of the Lord's devotees, one's transcendental ecstasy increases more and more through discussions about the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, one who wants to be free from the harassment of Maya in the form of sense gratification must constantly associate with pure devotees of the Lord who have no engagement other than chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord and carrying out his mission on earth. Srila Madhvacharya has pointed out that just as one should cultivate friendship with devotees, one must cultivate a spirit of friendship toward the demigods who manage the universe on the Lord's behalf. Thus one should live peacefully within this world. So these things should be taken care of. I wanted to show some other verse, but I forgot about it. But at least you get the idea. So, like the full moon, he illuminated the entire assembly of Vaishnavas by speaking Sri Chaitanya Mangal, and by the nectar of his qualities, he increased their transcendental bliss. Teho ati kripa kori agnya koila more Gaurangir Sheshalila Varnibar Tare. By his causeless mercy, he ordered me to write about the last pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so now there is a connection. Why he describes so much about Haridas Pandit? That Haridas Pandit requested Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to write about the last pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he was always reading Chaitanya Bhagavat and he wanted to know more about the later pastimes. So he asked Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to write. He said he ordered me to write, but of course it would have been a request. But being humble, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami took it as an order. Kashishwar Gosai Rashishya Govind Gosai Govinder Priya Sevak Tar Samanai. Govinda Gosai, the priest engaged in the service of the Lord Govinda in Vrindavan. Now, Gosai, or in Bengali they say Goshai. Goshai. So it's not Gosani. No, it's not a Sindhi. Govinda Goshai, the N with a tilde on top, it's a nasal sound. Goshai. Goshai. Govinda Goshai or Gosai. In Bengali there is a Goshai. S becomes SH for some reason. So Govinda Goshai, the priest engaged in the service of Lord Govinda in Vrindavan, was a disciple of Kashishwar Goshai. There was no servant more dear to the Govinda deity. Now Haridas Pandit was the temple president of Govinda Devji temple, and the priest engaged in the service of Lord Govinda in Vrindavan was a disciple of Kashishwar Goshai. His name was Govinda Goshai. He was a chief priest in that temple. There was no servant more dear to the Govinda deity. So in other words, that chief priest must be very dear to the Lord. Now if I can be a priest, I can serve the deity, but the Lord may not be pleased with me. That's possible. When does that become possible? It becomes possible well, I'll show you another verse. 7:14:40. ततोर्चायां हरिं केचित् संश्रद्धाय सपर्यया उपासत उपास्तापि नार्थदा पुरुषद्विषाम्. Sometimes a neophyte devotee offers all the paraphernalia for worshipping the Lord, and he factually worships the Lord as the deity. But because he is envious of the authorized devotees of Lord Vishnu, the Lord is never satisfied with his devotional service. So when the Lord does not become satisfied, even though we may be a priest, even a chief priest in a temple, when we are envious of devotees, authorized devotees, that kind of a priest is a useless person. The Lord himself does not like that person. But here we see, I remember now what I forgot to show. It's about fresh. How can everything be fresh in devotional service? The Paramatma makes everything fresh. That was the topic, and we have to satisfy the Guru, and then it will become fresh. So based on that, so we will go there. So sometimes a neophyte devotee offers all the paraphernalia for worshipping the Lord, and he actually worships the Lord as deity because he is envious. Whereas here it is said, Govinda Goshai, the priest engaged in the service of Lord Govinda in Vrindavan, was a disciple of Kashishwar Goshai. There was no servant more dear to the Govinda deity. That means he was not envious of other devotees. You see how much there is nuance. It is not clearly mentioned explicitly, but you can understand if you know these references that what makes a person very dear to the deity. If he is dear to the devotees, then he will become dear to the deity. If he becomes dear to his guru, yes, he becomes very dear to the deity. So he was actually doing all these things. So now, talking about how everything can stay fresh in a devotee's heart. Paramatma makes everything fresh, right? Now we know yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado yasya aprasadan nagate kutopi. How the Paramatma or the Supreme Lord becomes pleased when the Guru is pleased. And then everything remains fresh. So regarding this fresh, this is spoken by Sandipani Muni, the Guru of Krishna, to Krishna and Sudama. Tushtoham bhodvijashreshthah satyah santu manorathah chandamsya yatayamani bhavantviha paratracha. This is such an important verse. He said to Sudama and Krishna, you boys are first class Brahmanas and I am satisfied with you. May all your desires be fulfilled and may the Vedic mantras you have learned never lose their meaning for you in this world or the next. Now, Tushtoham means I am satisfied. The Guru was satisfied with Krishna. Of course, Krishna doesn't need a Guru, but he is showing by example. So the spiritual master was satisfied and therefore Chandamsi ayatayamani yatayamam ayatayamam ayatayamani. Yatayamam means what? See, in the purport there is mentioned cooked food left sitting for 3 hours is called yatayama, indicating that it has lost its taste. And similarly, if a devotee does not remain fixed in Krishna consciousness, the transcendental knowledge that once inspired him on the spiritual path will lose its taste or meaning for him. Thus, Sandipani Muni blesses his disciples that the Vedic mantras which reveal the absolute truth will never lose their meaning for them, but will remain ever fresh in their minds. Now, this word yatayamam, this cooked food for more than 3 hours, is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Food in the mode of ignorance, 17.10 of Bhagavad Gita. Yatayamam gatarasam puti paryushitam chayat uchchishtam api chamedhyam bhojanam tamasapriyam. Gatarasam means tasteless. Gata means gone. Rasam means taste. The taste has left from this food. In other words, tasteless. So food cooked 3 hours before being eaten. Yatayamam. This is not concerning prasadam, other food. So stale food. So the injunctions of Krishna, which are always ever fresh, at any time they are relevant, and that was confirmed by Arjuna. I will show you that. But it becomes irrelevant to a person who has offended his spiritual master. He will find such instructions not fresh anymore, not relevant anymore. He finds the need to change the instruction, change the words, and tell something else than what the spiritual master has told. He's just gone. That's the person is gone. So, what did I say? I was going to show. Yatayamam gatarasam bhuti paryushitam chayat uchchishtam apichamedyam bhojanam tamasaprim. So this is the food decomposed and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. So, yatayamam gatarasam. So a person loses his I was supposed to show something. Again, I keep forgetting all these things. I have short-term memory loss. So yatayamam gatarasam puti paryushitam. So stale, it's becoming stale. How does something fresh become stale? Yes, Arjuna's mention of the always relevant nature of Krishna's teachings. Yes. Matta smritirjnanam apohanam cha. Krishna makes us forget, remember everything. So Krishna is making me forget every single time. It means I'm not Krishna conscious, you see. 1:15:27, you see. देशकालार्थयुक्तानि हृत्तापोपशमानि च हरन्ति स्मरतश्चित्तं गोविन्दाभिहितानि मे. Arjuna is saying, now this is after Krishna has left. Now I am attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the personality of Godhead Govinda, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. That means they are always relevant at any time, at any place. Even right here, right now. Anytime. There's no such thing as, oh, it's not suitable here. No, it's always suitable. In fact, it is the only thing suitable. Everything is unsuitable. So it is always fresh, always relevant. But for a person who has disobeyed the spiritual master, the teachings becomes yatayamam. Whereas for Krishna and Sudama, because they satisfied the spiritual master, he blessed them by saying chandam si ayatayamani. They will never become stale. So there was no servant more dear to the Govinda deity than Govinda Gosai, disciple of Kashishwar Gosai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, quote, Kashishwar Gosai was one of the contemporaries of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was with the Lord in Jagannath Puri. Also known as Kashishwar Pandit. He was a disciple of Ishwar Puri and son of Vasudev Bhattacharya, who belonged to the dynasty of Kanjilal Kanu. His surname was Chaudhary. His nephew, his sister's son, who was named Rudra Pandit, was the original priest of Vallabhapur, which is situated about 1 mile from the Sri Rampur railway station in the village of Chatara. Installed there are the deities of Radha Govinda and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kashishwar Gosai was a very strong man, and therefore when Lord Chaitanya visited the temple of Jagannath, he used to protect the Lord from the crowds. Another of his duties was to distribute prasadam to the devotees after kirtan. Unquote. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur visited this temple at Vallabhapur. At that time, the person in charge was a Shaivite, Sri Shivachandra Chaudhary, who was a descendant of Kashishwar Gosai's brother. In Vallabhapur, there was a permanent arrangement to cook 9 kilos of rice, vegetables, and other foodstuffs daily. And near the village there is sufficient land which belonged to the deity, on which this rice was grown. Unfortunately, the descendants of Kashishwar Gosai's brother have sold a major portion of this land, and therefore the deity worship has now been hampered. This is the thing about deity worship. To keep the deity worship going opulently, the deity used to have lands. The temple used to hold lands, and such lands will produce the food that is required for the deity. And sometimes if there is even more surplus land, then there will be temples built or some preaching programs will be done. Even now in Andhra Pradesh, we have Tirupati. People still donate lands, their ancestral lands, to the temple. Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, TTD. They donate. Of course, TTD is not doing the work of Sanatana Dharma. They are doing some government, some siphoning, whatever is happening right now. There's corruption going on there. But that was a system where the land was donated to the temple, and the temple, if there is even more land, then it can be rented out, an income for the temple. So these things were so that the temple worship should be going on. Such investments used to be there for the temple, Now we have to beg for every cent we have to beg to build a temple. They say if you have one land, why do you need a land, Vilas? You can rent, no? Why are you trying to collect millions of dollars to construct a temple? Huh? You can be happy sitting there and renting out. They will say like that. That is only one land. If the deity has many lands, oh, why they need so much land? Oh, these people are very corrupt. They have so much money. Money means corrupt, is it? It depends upon the devotee. I mean, if he is a devotee and if a strong devotee, then it will not be corrupt. It will be used like Prabhupada. He had all the money at his disposal, but he used everything for Krishna. That is proper usage of money. So, continuing in the purport, it is said in the Gaura Ganudesh Deepika verse 137 that the servant of Krishna in Vrindavan named Bhringara descended as Kashishwar Gosai. Bhringara. Who knew? During the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In our household life, we also sometimes visited this temple of Vallabhpur and took prasadam there at noon. The deities of this temple, Sri Radha Govinda and the Gauranga Vigraha, are extremely beautiful. Near Vallabhpur is a beautiful temple of Jagannath. We sometimes used to take prasadam in this Jagannath temple also. These two temples are situated within 1 mile radius of the Sri Rampur railway station near Calcutta. You see, this is called traveling. Even when one has work, while traveling, visit holy places. Especially in India, you have so many. And of course, now wherever you go, there are Krishna conscious temples everywhere in the world. But so we have to make a visit. I don't know how long we can go more. There are more, I think, 19 more verses. Let's see if there are long verses. All okay, there are some purports. Let's see if we can finish everything. यादवाचार्य गोसाई श्री रूपेर संगी चैतन्य चरिते ते हो अति बड़ रंगी. Sri Yadavacharya Gosai, a constant associate of Srila Rupa Goswami, was also very enthusiastic in hearing and chanting about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Pandit Gosai Shishya Bhugarbha Gosai Gaura Katha Vinar Mukhe Anyanai. Bhugarbha Gosai, a disciple of Pandit Gosai, was always engaged in talk Chaitanya, knowing nothing else. Madraksham Kshena Punyan Shanamapi Bhavato Bhaktihinan Padabje Mashrausham Shravya Bandham Tava Charitam Apasyanyadakhyana Jatam Masmarsham Madhavatvam Api Bhuvanapate Chetasapahnuvanan Ma Bhuvam Tvatsaparya Vyatikara Rahito Janma Janmantarepi. King Kulashekar in Mukundamala Sutra, verse 24. O Madhava, please do not let me even glance at those whose pious credits are so depleted that they have no devotion for your lotus feet. Means, in other words, don't let me see those non-devotees. Next, please do not let me be distracted from listening to the worthy narrations of your pastimes and become interested in other topics. Please, O Lord of the universe, let me pay no attention to those who avoid thinking of you, and let me never be unable to serve you in some menial way birth after birth. So, he doesn't want to be distracted from listening to Krishna's pastimes. So, similarly, Bhugarbha Gosai, he only engaged in topics regarding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, knowing nothing else. He was not interested in anything else. तार शिष्य गोविंद पूजक चैतन्य दास. तार शिष्य गोविंद पूजक चैतन्य दास. मुकुंदानंद चक्रवर्ती प्रेमी कृष्ण दास. Among his disciples were Chaitanya Das, who was a priest of the Govinda deity, as well as Mukundananda Chakravarti and the great devotee Krishna Das. Acharya Goshayar Shishya Chakravarti Shivananda Niravadhi Tar Chitta Chaitanya Nityananda. Among the disciples of Anantacharya was Shivananda Chakravarti. in whose heart Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda constantly dwelled. Just like Hanuman, Sita and Ram constantly dwelled in his heart. Gauranitai dwelled in the heart of Shivananda Chakravarti. See, just by knowing, just by chanting the names of these devotees who carried the Lord in their hearts, we become purified. आर्जत वृंदावने बैशे भक्तगण शेष लीला सुनिते सवार होइल मन. In Vrindavan there were also many other great devotees, all of whom desired to hear the last pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So this was the premise of his writing, Krishnadas Kaviraj's writing of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He is saying that all these exalted devotees have requested me to write. He says, ordered me to write. Because they were eager to know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's last pastimes, later pastimes. मोरे आज्ञा करिला सबे करुणा करिया तासबार बोले लिखे निर्लज्ज होइया. By their mercy, all these devotees ordered me to write of the last pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of their order only, although I am shameless, I have attempted to write this Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, he is not saying that all these great devotees asked me to write Chaitanya Charitamrita. No. He is saying, by their mercy, all these devotees ordered me, not requested me to write, pleaded with me to write, begged with me to write. And I said, okay, I'll write. No. You see how humbly. By their mercy, this is the thinking of Vaishnava. By their mercy, all these devotees ordered me to write of the last pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of their order only, I am not qualified. Oh, they are asking me to write. Oh, they themselves are so great devotees, but they are not writing. They are asking me to write. That means how much more qualified I am. I can go in that nonsense, route, right? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, extremely alert. The mind is not going in that direction for him. He is saying, because of their order only, although I am unqualified, I am shameless. In fact, he is saying, not just unqualified, I am shameless fellow. I am taking the glory of writing this Chaitanya Charitamrita. No. All these names mentioned, they deserve the glory. They ordered me. I have attempted to write this Chaitanya Charitamrita. Devotee consciousness, devotee mentality. So, purport. To write about the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not an ordinary endeavor. Unless one is empowered by the higher authorities or advanced devotees, one cannot write transcendental literature. For all such literature must be above suspicion, or in other words, it must have none of the defects of conditioned souls, namely mistakes, illusions, cheating and imperfect sense perceptions. The words of Krishna and of the disciplic succession that carries the orders of Krishna are actually authoritative. To be empowered to write transcendental literature is a privilege in which a writer can take great pride. As a humble Vaishnava, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, being thus empowered, felt very much ashamed that it was he who was to narrate the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He felt ashamed. He did not feel proud. He did not feel so important. He felt ashamed that of all these great devotees who are experts and whose heart is the resting place of Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu's, they are the ones qualified, but they are giving me a chance to write. And now I am getting this glory of, in history I will be known as the person who wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita. How unfair it is. How shamelessly I am taking the credit when they actually deserve the credit. So he mentioned their names. Vaishnava thinking. We have to internalize these things when we deal with Vaishnavas. How can I glorify the others? I am dāsa. That's all what I am. I need nothing of this glory. (873) Vaishnavera ajña paya chintita antare Madan Gopale Gela Agnya Magibare. Having received the order of the Vaishnavas, but being anxious within my heart, because he was feeling how I can write, and why should I get the credit? Why I? Of all people, who am I to write? So he was getting anxious. He received the order of the Vaishnavas. Then, being anxious within the heart, I went to the temple of Madan Mohan. Madan Gopal here is mentioned as Madan Gopal, but it's same as Madan Mohan. Because that is Sanatana Goswami's temple, you know. I went to the temple of Madan Mohan in Vrindavan to ask his permission also. So still he was not like jumping on, yes, I will do it. No. He is reluctant, until it was clear that this is the order of the Vaishnavas and Krishna. And then he is just like, Nimitta Matram Bhavasavvasachin. Become an instrument in their plan, in their order. So, purport. A Vaishnava always follows the order of Guru and Krishna. If he does not follow, he is not a Vaishnava, inversely. A Vaishnava always follows the order of Guru and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami by their mercy. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami considered all the devotees that have been mentioned to be his preceptor, gurus, or spiritual masters, and Madan Gopal, Sri Madan Mohan Vigraha, is Krishna himself. Thus he took permission from both of them. And when he received the mercy of both Guru and Krishna, he was able to write this great literature, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This example should be followed. Anyone who attempts to write about Krishna must first take permission from the spiritual master and Krishna. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, and the spiritual master is his direct external representative. Thus, Krishna is situated antar-bahi, within and without. One must first become a pure devotee by following the strict regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds daily. And when one thinks he is actually on the Vaishnava platform, he must then take permission from the spiritual master, and that permission must also be confirmed by Krishna from within his heart. Then, if one is very sincere and pure, he can write transcendental literature, either prose or poetry. This is not some, nonsense. Just like, I want to write and write some crap in the name of Vaishnava literature. Darshan kori kailo charana vandan, Goshai das pujari kore charana sevan. When I visited the temple of Madan Mohan, the priest Goshai Das was serving the feet of the Lord, and I also prayed at the Lord's lotus feet. Prabhur charane yadi agnya magila, Prabhu kantha hoite mala khasiya padila. You see, when I prayed to the Lord for permission, a garland from his neck immediately slipped down, confirming the Lord's intention. Similarly, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was born, was a 6 months baby, his mother went to the Rath Yatra cart and placed him under Jagannath, at the feet of Jagannath, and one of the garlands slipped similarly and fell on the boy. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, marking the blessings of the Lord on him. So these are all not coincidental things of, hey, somebody did not put the garland properly. What is this? That may be the case, but the Lord's will was that somebody should not put the garland properly, so that it may fall on such a person. Why not any other time? Why at that time? If on the same, they may say, scientifically minded people may say, no, that is because of friction. Slowly it became loosen, and then it fell down. Yeah, but why that time? Why that person has to be there? Whatever. Why when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was asking, it has to slip down. And even if it is tightly bound, it can slip down if the Lord wants to. So, this so-called scientific understanding, scientific explanation are not enough. They are, just like you can say the crowds are because of the precipitation and this and that, rainfall and all. Yeah, but who has done all these things? Who has made these laws of evaporation, precipitation and whatever? And who has made the water? So we may say all this is scientific, but behind all this there is a will of the Lord. Just like a combustion engine in a car, there is a science to it. Okay, this moves and whatever. Yes, that is science, but there is a purpose why it was created, and there was an engineer, and he's the ultimate. It was his will that it should be created like that. That's it. सब वैष्णव गण हरि ध्वनि सब वैष्णव गण हरिध्वनि दिला गोसाई दास आई माला मोर gole dila. As soon as this happened, the Vaishnavas standing there all loudly chanted Hari Bol, and the priest Gosai Das brought me the garland and put it around my neck. This is how he received the confirmation of Madan Mohan Vigraha, asking him to write about Chaitanya Charitamrita. And all the devotees were very happy to hear this. You see, Hari Bol, they chanted Hari Bol. That's how Vaishnavas should be. If somebody is getting credit, oh, he is getting credit. How come Madan Mohan Vigraha did not do? Okay, tomorrow I will make some plan. I will ask the pujari to put the garland a little bit loose, and I will ask prayers until the garland falls, and then other people will know that I am the greatest devotee here. That's not Vaishnava. So this is Vaishnava. Everybody Hari Bol, everybody glorifying him. आज्ञामाला पाया अमर होइल आनंद ताहाई करिनु ए ग्रंथेर आरंभ आज्ञामाला पाया अमर होइल आनंद ताहाई करिनु ए ग्रंथेर आरंभ. I was greatly pleased to have the garland signifying the order of the Lord, and then and there I commenced to write this book. Then and there, in that temple itself, he sat down to start. এই গ্রন্থ লেখায় মোরে মদন মোহন আমার লেখন যেন সুখের পঠন. Actually, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is not my writing, but the dictation of Sri Madan Mohan. My writing is like the repetition of a parrot. Shukera Pathan, parrot responding. A parrot responds without realization. Hare Krishna. He will say Hare Krishna, but he doesn't understand what he's saying. He doesn't understand this is the name of the Lord, and no understand. Just copy the sound. So he's saying that I'm just like a parrot. This is humility. Purport: this should be the attitude of all devotees. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead recognizes a devotee, he gives him intelligence and dictates how he may go back to Godhead. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavad Gita 10:10. तेषां सतत युक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धि योगं तं येन मामुपयान्ति ते. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. The opportunity to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is open to everyone because every living entity is constitutionally a servant of the Lord. To engage in the service of the Lord is a natural function of the living entity, but because he is covered by the influence of Maya, the material energy, he thinks it to be a very difficult task. Let's read that again. To engage in the service of the Lord is the natural function of the living entity, but because he is covered by the influence of Maya, the material energy, he thinks it to be a very difficult task. How insightful is that? It is actually our natural tendency, but we think it is so difficult. Oh, Krishna consciousness is very difficult. Why it appears like that? Because by the influence of Maya. Because that means we are in Maya. When one is not in Maya, when one is completely Krishna conscious, it is effortless. It is effortless. Prabhupada was surprised by his own, there is this verse, right? Srimad Bhagavatam 8:5-47. क्लेशभूर्यल्पसाराणि कर्माणि विफलानि वा देहिनां विषयार्तानां न तथैवार्पितं त्वयि. Karmis are always anxious to accumulate wealth for their sense gratification, but for that purpose they must work very hard. Yet, even though they work hard, the results are not satisfying. Indeed, sometimes their work results only in frustration. But devotees who have dedicated their lives to the service of the Lord can achieve substantial results without working very hard. These results exceed the devotee's expectations effortlessly. Why? Because the holy name does everything for him because of his faith. So, if we find it difficult, it is because of Maya. Otherwise, it should be effortless. Krishna consciousness is effortless for the pure devotee. Because that is our natural position actually. For a fish to swim in the water is effortless. For us to swim in the ocean, it's just a suicide mission. But the fish is just going against the current even. That's natural. But if he places himself under the guidance of a spiritual master and does everything sincerely, immediately the Lord, who is situated within everyone's heart, dictates how to serve him. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. The Lord gives this direction, and thus the devotee's life becomes perfect. Whatever a pure devotee does is done by the dictation of the Supreme Lord. Thus it is confirmed by the author of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita that whatever he wrote was written under the direction of Sri Madan Mohan deity. I mean, he is taking down the dictation of the Supreme Lord of the entire material and spiritual worlds, but zero pride. Think about that for a second. That is Vaishnav. Although he is more exalted than royalty, but he is always humble. Apana ke hina kori mane. What is that? CC Madhya 23.26. Sarvottama apana ke hina kori mane. Although a pure devotee's standard is above all, he still considers himself to be in the lowest stage of life. She likhi Madan Gopal je likhaye kasthera puttali jena kuhake nachai. As a wooden doll is made to dance by a magician, I write as Madan Gopal orders me to do so. Puppet, in other words, wooden doll. This is the position of a pure devotee. One should not take any responsibility on his own, but should be a soul surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who will then give him dictation as the Chaitya Guru or the spiritual master within. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased to guide a devotee from within and without. From within he guides him as a super soul, and from without he guides him as a spiritual master. And we have a verse for that. I hope you know already. If you do not know, what are you doing? 11:29:6. Naivopayantyapachitiം kavayastavesha brahmayushapi kritamriddhamudha smarantah yontarbahisthanubhritam ashubham vidhunvan acharya chaitya vapusha swagatam venakti. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Super Soul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. Kuladhi devata mor madana mohan jar sevak raghunath rupa sanatan. I accept as my family deity Madan Mohan, whose worshippers are Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Vrindavana Daser Pada Padma Kori Dhyan Taragnya Loya Likhi Jahate Kalyan. I took permission from Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur by praying at his lotus feet, and upon receiving his order I have attempted to write this auspicious literature. Purport. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami took permission not only from the Vaishnavas and Madan Mohan but also from Vrindavan Das Thakur, who is understood to be the Vyasa of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Leelate Vyasa Vrindavan Das Tar Kripa Vina Anya Na Hoya Prakash. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur is the authorized writer on the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Without his mercy, therefore, one cannot describe these pastimes. In fact, the word Vyasa is written here. Vyasa Dev. That's not mentioned in this translation, but word to word you can see the Vyasa. So he is the Vyasa of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, which is actually mentioned already in the purport here. The Vyasa of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Murkha nicha kshudra mui vishaya lalas Vaishnavagnya bole kare Ete ka sahas. Look at the humility. I am foolish, low-born, and insignificant, and I always desire material enjoyment. Yet, by the order of the Vaishnavas, I am greatly enthusiastic to write this transcendental literature. And here we are thinking we are some great Vaishnavas who are delivering the whole world and doing some exceptional service to Krishna, and without our service, Krishna cannot survive. Huh? Without us, movement cannot go on. Who do we think we are? This is where one can actually serve. This is how one can actually serve Krishna. I am foolish, low-born, and this cannot be imitated. That does not mean, I should not imitate, so I'll just be myself. I'll just think I'm the greatest. Huh? There should be attempt. We cannot imitate, but I should understand that I am a rascal first. Yeah? Any service, it's a great privilege. It's not just like some chore. It's a privilege to be able to serve Krishna. Shri Rupa Raghunath Charaner Ebal Jar Smriti Siddha Hoy Vanchita Sakal. The lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami are my source of strength. Remembering the lotus feet can fulfill all one's desires. And Prabhupada was sitting in the Radha Damodar temple, and he was remembering the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami, and he was seeing the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami there, Bhajan Kutir. And in fact, Rupa Goswami gave him darshan and asked him to go to the Western world to preach. You know that? You know that window? There is a window from the Prabhupada's room in the Radha Damodar's temple, and from there you can see the Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir or Samadhi, one of them. So, from there, and from that window, Rupa Goswami actually gave darshan to Prabhupada, encouraging him that yes, you should go to the Western world now. And after that, he went on this epic journey to Boston, United States. So, always Prabhupada was constantly looking out the window and seeking the blessings of Rupa Goswami. So that's how Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was, the source of my strength, he's saying. The lotus feet of Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. Remembering their lotus feet can fulfill all one's desires. This is not just, poetic writing and good to say, nice to hear, good sound bite, not practical. No. This is actually how it happens. So, we have to understand it's not by our personal endeavors things are happening, it is only by the sanction of Krishna. And Krishna will sanction if the devotee, especially concerning devotional service, Krishna will sanction when the devotee, when the spiritual master is pleased. So therefore, we should always seek the blessings of the spiritual master in every single endeavor we undertake. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pade Jarash Caitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Purport. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 8th chapter, in the matter of the authors receiving the orders of the authorities, Krishna and Guru. Alright, so that's the end of this chapter. We made it to the end of the chapter all the way. Wow. That was a lot of topics we actually covered today. 10-15. Alright, I'll take some questions if there are any. There are actually. Pavitra Mataji is asking, Prabhu, what if some devotees are in trouble due to other devotees, and how can we help them? Nobody can actually trouble us if we follow the third verse of the Shikshashtaka. There's absolutely nobody. There was this incident where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where one devotee was being tortured by the Yavanas. And the devotees came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said that, this devotee is being tortured. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, he's being tortured? What is he doing? while they are torturing him. Oh, he's constantly chanting Krishna's name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, that's very good. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that's very good. He did not say anything else. I mean, he did not ask anything else. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Paramatma, he knows what he's doing, but he wanted to make us know. That's why he's asking, so that the Vaishnavas will say, and then it will be recorded and we will read. So, he's chanting, oh, that's very good. That's all he wants to know. So, even in the torturous condition, one can stay completely without any problem if one is Krishna conscious. So, if other devotees are giving problem, the only answer is to be actually Krishna conscious. What can we say? Now, if they are not so inspired and everything, that's why they have to read Prabhupada's book. If actually you read Prabhupada's books, you can overcome any kind of situation. Because ultimately, nobody is the controller. Krishna is the controller. And Krishna will give intelligence not only me, but to even that devotee who is maybe causing problems. And we have to pray to the Krishna, please, give him a good intelligence so that he can become a good Vaishnava and doesn't cause these problems. So that's how we have to think favorably towards them and praying to Krishna that please give them some good intelligence. That's all I can say. Of course, if there are other senior devotees who can advise those devotees who are causing the problems, yes, it has to be addressed that way. But if there is nobody else and I'm the only one and I'm facing some difficulty, we have to have this Trinada Pisunicena as our daily reminder. I mean, every moment we have to remind ourselves. Trinada Pisunicena, Tarora Pisahishnuna, Amana, Amana. And this is not automatically just like because we chant that verse, we will remember it and we will follow it. We have to actually become proper devotee. And we have to chant Hare Krishna attentively and read Prabhupada's books every day and then engage in our service and help those who are even trying to cause you problems. Help them out and be their servant. Of course, if he is an envious rascal, then Krishna will also make arrangement for him to leave. That's another thing. Ultimately, Krishna is the controller. We can't. Something he can do anything, right? So we just have the faith that Krishna is running the show. It's not that person or this person or ultimately Krishna is running the show, and it's not that we want that devotee to become something happens to this devotee because I am the more sincere devotee, so this person should get it. He's offending me. Yeah? Then I will get it. I deserve it. Yeah? What great devotee I am that person has to get offense because he is offending me. It's crap. So this whole thinking has to change. So we have to be just Trinada Pisunich and everything automatically will fall in place. Krishna will make everything fall in place. That's all. And if the issue can be addressed, senior devotees can address the issue, fine and good. But we have to always be desiring good, even for the worst enemy. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, desire the greatest good for the worst enemy. So if we keep that mentality, then everything will be easy to navigate. If we keep grudges, if we keep all these, uneasy feelings within our heart, Krishna cannot sit there. We are replacing him with all rubbish, muck. So we have to become Krishna conscious and not be bothered by many other things. NOD chapter 21. Okay, you do this homework. I'm not going to do it now. This is all the 50 qualities and 64 qualities of Krishna and 50 qualities that we can have as living entities, and how Haridas Pandit has all those 50 qualities in full. And not only Haridas Pandit, every single pure devotee has all the 50 qualities in full. Mishra we have in North India and Odisha also. Okay. Okay, here is a reference. Kirupe Paivo Seva Bhajan by Narottam Das Thakur. Adosha Darshi Prabhu Patita Uddhar Evar Narottame Koronistar. O Vaishnava Master, you do not look for faults, but you simply redeem the fallen. This time redeem this Narottam. one instance in the verse. Okay. So this is where this is from. Adoshadarshi. Dimitri is saying, so that's why I have huge inspiration after such classes to chant. Oh, that's nice. Again, credit goes to this side of the screen. All credit goes to the left of the screen. Prabhupada's books. Pavitra Madhu is saying, live stream book distribution is a great idea. Yeah, we have to do these things. I mean, we have to. And also, I was thinking of animation of all our Bhagavatam and everything. And nowadays, there is an Unreal Engine, a technology called Unreal Engine, with which you can do animation as good as real. And if you can do all the pastimes, all the stories of the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ramayana, Mahabharata with those technologies, I'll tell you, we'll take over the world. Divya Mataji, Prabhuji, in order to know what is right and what is wrong, nowadays I started discriminating this is different from the other. That way I am always seeing faults in non-devotees especially. A Vaishnava doesn't find fault in others like Haridas Pandit. When I was not even a practitioner, I overlooked faults in others, but now when I became a practitioner, I am pointing out every fault at others. Please guide me on this. So, yeah, now you are aware of the faults. Because previously you were overlooking because you did not consider them as big things. But now you know these big things. So, if somebody is showing you any faults, so you take it that, he's showing you how you should not be, or what you should not do, what he has done, he or she has done. So the other way is try to help them. Yes, they have faults, everybody has faults. If anybody does not have faults, by the way, he shouldn't be here in this material world unless he is like Prabhupada who came because of Krishna sent him. Otherwise, everybody has faults. So, we shouldn't be too much concerned. The main thing is apichet suduracharo bhajate maam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. So, of course, that is for a devotee. If he is having some kind of a seeming bad qualities or what, we have to overlook that. He has taken to the biggest thing. Eventually, he will be purified. But for a non-devotee, if he has bad qualities, of course, he is expected to have bad qualities. Where he will have good qualities, but the only way he can become good. So I have to consider myself a servant. Oh, he has bad qualities or she has bad qualities. Okay, let me try to help. Give him a book. That's all. Without discrimination. Give a book. And let him learn, let him become purified. And then eventually he will become good. As if I was a saint and I am here, the greatest saint to ever walk on the face of the earth. Rascal. I mean, I've been going around like a pig all around, going around all these planetary systems like an idiot. And now I'm suddenly sadhu. Trillions of years I have went against Krishna, and I am suddenly the most perfect person. Yamaraj, who is deciding, this is a rascal, he should be punished. This is a rascal, he should be punished. So just serve them, become a servant. Yes, they have faults. I have millions of more faults than them. Let me become their servant. Let me help them. Let me serve them by giving them knowledge or giving them whatever. That's all. I mean, if we have a service mentality, then we will be safe. Because if we see the faults in others also, we will only think of how to correct those faults and serve them by correcting their faults. That is also service. So, for his own good, right? Service means something which benefits the master. So you always work for the benefit of the master. So take that person as a master. Okay, do something for his benefit. What is good for him. So that's an opportunity for service. So that's good. But of course, if he's incorrigible, then sternly has to be told. Even that stern telling, that scolding, that chastisement is also a service. So that that person can become strong. Otherwise, he will just take everything lightly. He requires chastisement. That's also out of service, not out of some personal aggrandizement. Next, Divya Mataji. Prabhuji, due to this, I am not able to follow the most important verse, more humble than grass and more tolerant than tree. Although I was given knowledge that we must think we are doing service to everyone, but it's very hard and difficult to follow this verse while dealing with disturbing elements and people. See, don't expect to follow this in one weekend or one overnight. No. This takes time. We have to constantly meditate on this instruction for at least half a century before we can see some tangible results. So don't be, yesterday I heard class and today I tried and I again failed. Utsahan nischaya dhairyat. Dhairyat means patience, dhirata. Patience. It will not happen overnight. It may take many lifetimes, to be very honest. If you are a little bit sincere, maybe half a century. If you are extremely sincere, half a moment. It's only my sincerity. That's all. Every time I will fail, a child will fail many times. He will try to walk, he will fall, he will try to walk, he will fall. One day he will walk, he will not fall. So, it's not that, I am falling, I'm already, it has been 4 months, I'm still falling. The child doesn't lose any morale by falling so many times. He will just laugh and get up and continue walking. Continue walking. That's it. That's all you have to do. We will fail a million times. We will fail. But just we have to pick ourselves up and then tread again the path. That's it. Divya Mataji next. Prabhuji, every time I hear your lectures, I learn how to study the books scrutinizingly. It was just knowledge before observing. What? It was just knowledge before observing you reading book. Now it's a feeling to study scrutinizingly. It was just knowledge. What? I learned how to study the book scrutinizingly. It was just knowledge before observing you reading book. Now it's a feeling to study scrutinizingly. Okay. But that makes me feel like I can never read like this alone on my own, relating every reference and linking it to each other. Thank you so much for being like a strong boat, rescuing neophyte devotees like us who are drowning. See, I am blessed to be in the association of Sundar Prabhu, who always drilling us. I have been with him for the last 17 years now. And he has been drilling Shastra from day one for 17 years. What you're seeing now is not an overnight product. I don't claim any credit to this, because the credit goes to Prabhu's training, and the only credit is on my side is I stuck to his training. That's it. And that also happened with Devotees Mercy. It's not my doing. So, you saying that you can't link all these references like this and all, I couldn't as well. Until Prabhu showed one by one, and I read here and I read there, and then something it clicks, and then it happens over years. How can you expect on day one? How could I expect when on day one I am reading and I will just connect everything? You think I was like this on day one? No, I did not know anything. I just read and kept on reading. That's all. That was one thing I was very much interested in. I was a bookworm anyway before even coming to Krishna consciousness. I was reading crap books. But after coming to Krishna consciousness, I just transferred that same reading enthusiasm to Prabhupada's books, and that saved my life. So I was just reading, and Prabhu was the one who taught us how to learn shlokas. I was never even thinking about learning any shlokas in my life. I never found a need to. I just wanted to understand the concept, and that's it. I was never into memorizing anything. Even when I was studying for my college and material education, I never liked memorizing anything. Although I did memorize many things, it was just out of habit, and I somehow knew it. But it is not like I liked it. If I remember because I understand the concept, that is what would satisfy me. So I was never into memorizing anything, but now I understand. The importance of memorizing shlokas. And it's not just memorizing by rote without any meaning. This is showing evidence, quoting evidence, and you should know every evidence where it is. So otherwise, you are not authoritative. You lose relevance. So, and it's very satisfying when you know the reference. Okay, whatever I'm speaking, I know exactly where I'm speaking from. I know exactly what I'm talking about. That is a level of confidence or level of satisfaction you will get when you can speak like that. So, also by the mercy of Krishna, but it all was possible because of Prabhu's training over a period of how many years? So don't be worried about you can't, it doesn't happen. It happens over time. It's patience again. Divya Mataji, whatever pure devotee does is under the dictation of Sri Krishna. Can we consider this for practitioner devotees also, or it's applicable only for a pure devotee? Under whose direction neophytes work? Their own mind or mercy of a pure devotee? Good question. So that's why, because dictation of Krishna is not very easily obtainable unless you're very pure. So Krishna is kind enough to come out as the spiritual master and give us direct instructions. So as long as we follow those direct instructions by the spiritual master, then we are following by the direct instruction under the dictation of Krishna automatically. But if we deviate from the order, then we fall away. It's as simple as that. That's all it is. Anandani Mataji, from within he can guide when the soul is above three modes transcendental goodness. Yeah, that's explained here. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:9, I think 6 or 7 or 8. One should not, however, so Brahma was instructed by the Supreme Lord from within his heart. By saying one should not, however, think himself on the level of Brahma to be initiated directly by the Lord from inside, because in the present age no one can be accepted to be as pure as Brahma. Now, of course, the ISKCON devotees, they will say, oh, see, similarly you cannot hear from Prabhupada what is his order directly, think yourself on the level of Brahma. No, this is Prabhupada's instructions are very direct. Oh, the Lord talking to me and all that. These are all vague, what Lord talking to you. So, one should not, however, think himself on the level of Brahma to be initiated. So, Prabhupada's instructions are very direct. Many people do not even meet Prabhupada or met them only once. What instruction they got? Nothing. So, what instruction are they following? His instructions which are already there, and then set up a temple system, and then everybody must follow that. That's it. So, one is pure, then direct from Krishna he can get, and that is where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was. That's why Madan Mohan Vigraha dictated to him. It's so interesting to listen to Rupa Goswami is giving darshan to Prabhupada. Yes. In line with Adi 863, we are hearing CC by Yogas. Oh, come on. Prabhuji, I would like to take the incident where a garland of Jagannath fell on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, marking of Krishna's blessing as an analogy towards devotees' daily life activities. Like either due to friction or loosening, or priest couldn't place the garland properly. For whatever reason, it fell down, but ultimately it's Krishna's will for that point of time. So when devotees trying to follow Krishna consciousness, if they get angry or if they unknowingly do mistake or sometimes do due to illusion, if anything unwanted happens, is this also Krishna's will? Although analogy doesn't suit well. See, it doesn't matter if a devotee makes a mistake, but he has to be corrected. It is in one way the will of Krishna, and because if he makes a mistake, then there is a chance to be corrected. So then he will learn explicitly what is the right way to do it. Until then, maybe it was not clear to him. So if he makes a mistake, then somebody will correct him, and in that way he will learn. So if Krishna wants him to learn, he will make a mistake and then he will be corrected. And it's not that always will be somebody who will be telling us. Sometimes it is Krishna himself who will, engineer situations in which we will learn a lesson from life's experiences, from life's circumstances. So Krishna has many ways of teaching. This is all due to Krishna's. He doesn't want. Can you say that it was Krishna's will that we came to this material world? Then you can't. It was not his will, but because we made the mistake, so he wants to rectify us. So he allows us to do mistake, so that we will ultimately be rectified. So similarly, in the matter of devotional service also, if somebody does a mistake, it's not that the Lord wanted that mistake to happen, but if the devotee does a mistake, the Lord wants him to be corrected so that he will be corrected. So we don't need to overthink this. We just need to do our service properly. Now, whatever was happened, and even like for example, the garland can be perfectly alright and it can still fall down if the Lord wants to, right? Just like the Rath during the Rath Yatra was not moving. Elephants were pulling it, it would not move. And there was nothing obstructing the Rath, but still the Rath would not move. So physically or through physics we can't explain that. It's the Lord's will. And when the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu touched his forehead at the back of the chariot, it started moving. Just one single person started moving. So it moves when the Lord wants to. So he can even do it when the garland is not properly done. When the garland is properly done, sorry. So he can do it anytime. These things. But anyway, don't wait for the garland to fall and talk something Krishna, and where is the garland not falling? Please Pujari, do something there. Make the garland fall. These things happen without our asking and looking for them. Krishna will make these kind of arrangements. But we don't need anything. We don't need any confirmation from who we don't want confirmation. Prabhupada's order is already there. Let's first of all execute the order. We want some confirmation from Krishna again. As if it's a great undertaking we are doing. Let's start where we have to start. We are not writing some Chaitanya Charitamrita here. Prabhupada has already given us the order, and devotees are already asking. So let me do it. There is no need of another confirmation from Krishna. Some garland must fall. Garland is not falling. That means Krishna doesn't want me to do this service. Yeah, you all are telling me, but Krishna, you see, garland is not falling, so I will not do this service. Or rascal nonsense. Get out then. So we deserve that kind of chastisement then. So that's that. It was knowing, now it's a feeling too. Okay, I understood. Anyway, good you're taking it seriously. Thank you very much. So that's the end of questions. Waiting for confirmation. Very nice explanation, bro. So auspicious to our ears. Waiting for confirmation. Yeah, it's already confirmed. I'm not moving. I'm not acting on the order. Some more confirmation, why we need? Just do it. Like that Nike has a tagline, just do it. That's it. That is Karishye Vachanam Tava. I'll just do it. That's Arjuna. Alright, so thank you all very much. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Guru Parampara ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.